Chapter 78. Outside the crowd, Yun-shi looked at Qin Yu and Bai Qingyue, who were talking together, with a slightly gloomy expression. "Sister, what's wrong?" Yun Guxuan noticed Yun-shi's strange expression and couldn't help but ask. "Nothing." Yun-shi came back to her senses and said in a slightly flustered manner. How could Yun Guxuan not see through his sister's thoughts? To be honest, he was quite satisfied with Qin Yu. Not to mention the Zhen Wu dynasty, even in the entire Azure province, it would be difficult to find a genius who could compare to Qin Yu. However, the current Qin Yu was already a dragon in the sky. Qin Yu's world would not be the Zhen Wu dynasty, nor would it be the Azure province. The 5 sacred lands were his stage. In comparison, although his sister's talent wasn't bad, it was much dimmer. They weren't on the same level. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. After Wu Xingchen gave the order, all the students flew into the sky and left the main city. But before they flew away, Qin Yu felt a killing intent land on him. Looking back, he saw Wu Xingchen tilting his head as if nothing had happened, discussing something with the city lord. No need to look. The killing intent just now was from him. Within the divine dragon ancient seal, the dragon soul's voice was filled with dense killing intent. Second prince? Ha! Qin Yu's eyes flashed with a cold smile. If Wu Xingchen dared to provoke him again, Qin Yu definitely wouldn't mind sending him on his way. The identity of a prince of the Zhen Wu dynasty was useless in Qin Yu's eyes. If he was really angered, even the entire Zhen Wu dynasty would be destroyed. "Humph, Qin Yu, this time, I'll definitely make you lose your life here." Seeing Qin Yu fly away, a cold smile appeared on Wu Xingchen's face. Since he had already formed a grudge with Qin Yu, he naturally had to get rid of Qin Yu to prevent future troubles for himself. Especially after Qin Yu's monstrous talent, Xue Wudi's murderous intent intensified. Outside of the main city was a large mountain range that stretched all the way to the border of the prefecture. Because of this, the location of this ancient city was rather dangerous. This was because the enemy could use the cover of the mountain range to secretly approach the ancient city. Whoosh! Whoosh! Thousands of students of the Sacred Institute disappeared into the mountains in the blink of an eye. Has the news spread? After Wu Xingchen waved his hand to dismiss the city lord and the others, he asked one of his trusted guards. "I've already spread the news. I reckon they've already reached the border." The guard immediately reported. "Go!" The killing intent in Wu Xingchen's eyes became even more intense. After coldly laughing, he left the city with a few guards. Die. In a certain stone forest in the mountain range, Bai Qingyue shot out like a sharp arrow with murderous intent. The ancient sword in her hand blossomed with a dazzling sword light. 2 martial kings who were hiding behind the ancient trees, preparing to launch a sneak attack, were instantly killed by her sword. Earth-rank spirit sword. Qin Yu's gaze fell slightly behind the ancient sword. Bai Qingyue's cultivation was only at LV7 martial king realm, but under the enhancement of the ancient sword, even a peak martial king would find it difficult to withstand her combat strength. After killing those 2 warriors, Bai Qingyue's killing intent became even stronger. She crazily shuttled back and forth in the ancient forest. Every warrior she saw was killed by her sword. Qin Yu didn't make a move. He just followed beside Bai Qingyue. At this time, Bai Qingyue was venting her grief and indignation. Qin Yu naturally wouldn't interfere. Anyway, as long as a martial king didn't appear, Bai Qingyue shouldn't be in danger. Of course, with the status of a martial king, he wouldn't be a spy or become a wandering general. Just as the Zhenwu dynasty wouldn't send a martial king to be a spy. In this way, Bai Qingyue and Qin Yu went all the way into the depths of the mountain range amidst the bloody massacre. More and more warriors of the 100 Wars dynasty appeared in the depths of the mountain range. But in the center of the mountain range, they were even ambushed and besieged by more than 10 martial kings. Qin Yu still didn't make a move. Bai Qingyue fought alone. After killing all the warriors with difficulty, she suddenly squatted in a pile of bloody corpses and cried. Her cries were so sorrowful that it made one's heart ache. Bang bang! Qin Yu flicked his finger. 2 battle dragon True Yuan broke through the air and killed 2 warriors who wanted to take the opportunity to sneak attack. He quietly looked at Bai Qinyue, who was venting her grief. Only when her tears dried up did Bai Qinyue recover from her grief. Thinking of the current situation, she immediately stood up with her sword. Thank you. Bai Qinyue wiped the tears on her face in a panic and thanked Qin Yu softly. She knew that if it wasn't for Qin Yu, she would have been killed. It's just a small matter. Now, do you want to go back? Qin Yu smiled. Don't you want battle merits? Bai Qinyue asked. Not interested. Qin Yu shook his head slightly and looked into the distance. I want to go ahead and take a look. Bai Qinyue thought for a while and didn't retreat. Although her emotions were stable, her desire for revenge was not extinguished. Then let's go. Qin Yu nodded and lightly jumped in the forest. Junior brother Qin Yu, will you participate in the 100 countries battle 3 months later and enter the sacred grounds to cultivate? Along the way, Bai Qinyue, who had completely calmed down, asked Qin Yu. Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the situation. Qin Yu's goal was the dragon's blood. So his next goal was naturally the place recorded on the ancient map. As for going to the 5 sacred grounds to cultivate, Qin Yu really didn't think much of it. Unless there was dragon's blood in the 5 sacred grounds. My father's wish was for me to enter the sacred grounds to cultivate. He believed that only by entering the sacred grounds could one become a top expert in the future and not be bound by the secular world. Bai Qinyue clenched her fists and looked determined. So, I will participate in the 100 countries battle selection 3 months later. I will definitely fulfill my father's wish. In addition to fulfilling her father's wish, Bai Qinyue had a bigger goal in her heart. One day, she would definitely bury the 100 Battles dynasty with her own hands. Then I'll have to work hard. Qin Yu smiled gently. When the inner court students of the Imperial Academy went deep into the ancient forest to hunt down the spies of the 100 Battles dynasty, 2 groups of martial artists flew over from the distant sky and appeared at the border of the rising sky county. However, they didn't gather with the rogue cultivators who had set up camp. Instead, they camped alone on the mountain peak. The cultivation of the 2 groups of martial artists was at least martial king. There were a total of 40 to 50 martial emperors and a few martial venerables. Is the news true? Did that brat really follow the students of the Royal Sacred Institute here? When speaking, it was a man with a dignified face and wearing a long blue robe. This dignified man was the Duke of the Heavenly Star County in the 100 Battles dynasty. The news from the spy can't be wrong. They should have already entered the mountain range, and are probably hunting down the rogue cultivators and spies who are fishing in troubled waters. A martial emperor of the Heavenly Star County said with certainty. Duke of the Heavenly Star County, are you sure that this kid called Qin Yu is the murderer who killed my son? At this moment, a man wearing a purple robe and a purple gold crown on his head spoke with a slightly sinister voice. This man was also a famous martial venerable in the 100 Battles dynasty, the Scarlet Cloud Duke of the Scarlet Cloud Duke's mansion. In the previous trip to the Heavenly Star County, not only did Qin Yu offend the Heavenly Star Duke's mansion, but he also killed the most outstanding crown prince of the Scarlet Cloud Duke's mansion. Chapter 79. This is the information from the Zhen Wu dynasty today. The Tianqing Duke took out a secret letter and handed it to the Red Cloud King. A LV6 Sky Martial Realm Cultivator killed a LV7 Martial Royal Realm Cultivator and a half Martial Venerable? When the Red Cloud King opened the letter, his eyebrows twitched and he looked shocked. The content of the letter was about the battle between Qin Yu and the Shui clan. In less than half a day, the Tianqing Duke had learned about what had happened in the Zhen Wu imperial city. The Tianqing Duke's ability to gather information was amazing. Although there is no information about him using the 7-star pagoda, Judging from his cultivation and age, he is most likely to be the culprit. Killing intent flashed in the Tianqing Duke's eyes. More importantly, he happened to be at the border of the Shadow Moon mountain range at that time. The Tianqing Duke was almost certain that Qin Yu was the culprit. Qin Yu was the one who had caused a ruckus in Heavenly Star County City and left without a second thought. Of course, even if Qin Yu was not the culprit, the Tianqing Duke would not stop. He would rather kill 10,000 innocent people than let the culprit go. Since that's the case, what are you waiting for? Hearing this, the Red Cloud King's face was filled with killing intent. Luo Shao City is the main city and the city governor is a martial venerable. There is also the Defender Array and the Teleportation Array. To be safe, we have to wait for the right time to strike. The Tianqing Duke said. The right time? The Red Cloud King asked. Are you waiting for the information from the spy in Luo Shao City? No, I am waiting for the secret letter from the Zhenwu dynasty. The Tianqing Duke's words were shocking. You dare to make a deal with the Zhenwu dynasty at this time? The Red Cloud King was surprised. It is not a deal. Someone in the Zhenwu dynasty sent a secret letter. The Tianqing Duke shook his head and said, If I am not wrong, that person must have a grudge against Qin Yu and wants to use us to get rid of him. Is it credible? The Red Cloud King asked. At least, all the secret letters sent by that person are true. I have confirmed it through the 1,000 Letters Pavilion. Otherwise, no matter how many spies the Tianqing Duke had, the Tianqing Duke heard about the battle in the Imperial Sacred Academy. Your Highness, there's a secret letter. At this moment, a martial king flew over. This is, the Heavenly Star Commandery Prince hurriedly opened it and was slightly stunned. It seems like the person who sent the secret letter has a high status. Scarlet Cloud King took a look and was surprised. Scarlet Cloud King, what do you think of the plan mentioned in this secret letter? The Heavenly Star Commandery Prince asked after a long while. Given the size of the Falling Sky mountain range, it won't be easy to find someone. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, we can proceed according to this plan. The Scarlet Cloud King pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, let's begin. Immediately, the Heavenly Star Commandery Prince began to give out orders. After a short while, the few tens of thousands of martial artists that had gathered at the border of the Rising Sky County seemed to have received some sort of order, and they moved out with a bang and charged towards the direction of Dawnfall City. What's that sound? Oh no, the 100 Battles Dynasty's martial artists are ready to attack the city. At this moment, the students of the Saint Academy who were chasing after the spies of the 100 Battles Dynasty in the mountain range noticed the dark figures flying over from the distant horizon. Their expressions changed drastically. Immediately, almost all of the students flew up into the sky and headed towards Dawnfall City at an extremely fast speed. Although there were more than 1,000 inner yard students on the move this time. Judging from the momentum of the 100 Battles Dynasty, there were probably more than 1,000 martial kings. Besides martial kings, there would definitely be martial monarchs among them. Although their strength was not weak, if they were targeted by a martial monarch, they would most likely die. However, not everyone was like Qin Yu, a demon-level genius who could easily kill those of a higher level. It's time to go. After killing a martial king with one sword strike, Bai Qingyue looked at the dark figures flying over from afar with a dignified expression and flew up into the sky as well. On the other hand, Qin Yu's expression was normal. This was not only because he was confident in his own strength, but also because there was a martial venerable from the Royal Saint Academy in the dark. When he came out of the Saint Academy, Qin Yu had already noticed it. It was normal when he thought about it. The inner yard students sent by the Royal Saint Academy this time could be said to be the future backbone of the true martial royal family. Naturally, it was impossible for them not to have any protective measures. With the flying speed of a martial king, it did not take long for most of the students of the Royal Saint Academy to return to Dawnfall City. Boom! But when Qin Yu approached Dawnfall City, two dazzling black lights suddenly shot over. The target was Qin Yu. Sneak attack? With a dragon roar, the azure dragon appeared and circled around Qin Yu. Qin Yu thrust out his spear and collided with the dazzling black light head-on. After the violent explosion, Qin Yu's body shook and flipped back more than 10 feet in the air. Martial Venerable! Qin Yu stabilized his body and looked at the place where the black light burst out with a faint green light in his eyes. He saw 2 figures flying up into the sky from outside the city walls of Dawnfall City. The tyrannical aura emitted from their bodies was that of a martial venerable. Are they here to ambush you? In the ancient dragon seal, the dragon soul's eyes were filled with killing intent. Is it the Shui clan? The killing intent in Qin Yu's eyes was also surging with strong killing intent. If he had not refined the 10,000 poison inky flood dragon's dragon blood and increased the power of the azure dragon, he was afraid that he would only be able to deal with that move by using the heaven-punishing killing intent. Not good, it's a martial venerable. The faces of the inner courtyard students who were flying over changed, and they immediately took a detour. Second Prince, those 2 are martial venerables. Quickly let the martial venerable seniors in the city take action. Bai Qingyue, who had been pushed by Qin Yu to avoid the attack, instantly turned pale. But she did not lose her calm and immediately entered the city and shouted at Wu Xingqian, who was on the city walls. Facing a martial venerable, there was no other way except to let the martial venerable experts in the city deal with them. 3 seniors, I'll leave them to you. Wu Xingqian turned and said respectfully to the 3 martial venerables behind him. It's my duty, Second Prince is too polite. The 3 martial venerables looked at each other and immediately flew into the city. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. But at that moment, another 3 figures flew over like lightning and entangled the 3 martial venerables. Why are there so many martial venerables? Bai Qingyue, who was slightly relieved, saw the scene and her eyes shrank and her face became even paler. 5 martial venerables? Didn't they say that the Rising Sky City was not a place to attack head-on? Why would the 100 Battles dynasty send 5 martial venerables? Wu Xingqian saw the scene and a faint cold smile appeared on his face. His plan had finally succeeded. Qin Yu had successfully escaped from the Shui clan's 100-kill formation. This time, several martial venerables were coming. Let's see how Qin Yu can struggle. Close the city gates and activate the city protection array. Immediately, Wu Xingqian shouted loudly. With a rumble, the city gates of Luo Shao City were closed. In the next moment, countless fiery red spiritual inscriptions intertwined in the void and formed a large array that was 10 feet thick and enveloped Luo Shao City. Chapter 80. What are you doing? The people from the 100 Battles dynasty are coming. Let us in. The students of the Saint Academy, who had bypassed the martial venerables and were about to enter the city, were shocked. Second Prince, there are still many people outside the city who have not entered. Open the defender array. Bai Qingyue, whose face was pale, hurriedly said to Wu Xingqian when she saw the array covering the entire city. Of course, I know that there are still many students outside the city who have not entered. But look at the situation outside the city. There are 5 martial venerables. If we don't open the defender array now, who can stop the 2 martial venerables among the hundreds of thousands of people who have not evacuated in time when they break through the city gates? Wu Xingqian said coldly in the face of the students' cries for help. What the Second Prince said is true. In times of crisis, we have to do what we can. That's right. In addition to the martial venerables, the martial artist army of the 100 Battles dynasty has also arrived. If the Great City Barrier formation is not activated, the hundreds of thousands of people in the city may all die. As for the martial artists outside the city, although they can't enter the city, they can escape. They may not die. The governor and the others looked at the black mass of the martial artist army in the distant sky and added, "Brother, what should we do now?" Looking at Qin Yu, who was stopped by the 2 martial venerables, Yunxi's face was filled with anxiety. Martial venerables are not people we can deal with. Yun Guxuan shook his head slightly. However, he frowned slightly. He had already sensed that something was wrong. 2 martial venerables were targeting Qin Yu. Was this a coincidence? The Defender Array has been opened. At this moment, the Heavenly Star Duke and the Red Cloud Duke, who were in the dark, looked at the Defender Array of Luoshao City with strange expressions. Everything was going according to the plan in the secret letter. Now, Qin Yu was alone and had nowhere to run. It seems that the person who sent the secret letter was the second prince of the Zhenwu royal family. After thinking for a while, the Heavenly Star Duke's eyes fell on Wu Xingqian, who was on the city wall. What? Does the second prince have a grudge against that guy? The Scarlet Cloud Emperor collected his thoughts after hearing this. From the information from the Thousand Letters Pavilion, there is indeed a grudge between them, and it is not small. The Tianxing Commandery Prince nodded slightly. He guessed that someone wanted to use them to get rid of Qin Yu. He contacted the Thousand Message Pavilion, an intelligence organization, to inquire about the people who had a grudge with Qin Yu. Naturally, he learned about the grudge between Qin Yu, the Shui clan, and Wu Xingqian. To be able to remain calm even when facing 2 martial saints, this person is no ordinary person. What is his background? The Scarlet Cloud Emperor shifted his gaze away from Wu Xingqian and looked at Qin Yu. His eyes flickered with astonishment. In the 100 Battles dynasty, they probably couldn't find such a stunning genius. He came from a small clan. I heard that he has a deep relationship with a blacksmith grandmaster of the true martial dynasty. He must have had some fortuitous encounter, allowing him to cultivate to his current level. The Heavenly Star Duke said lightly. Master Refiner? Scarlet Cloud King raised his eyebrows. I've asked around. They're not master and disciple. The Heavenly Star Duke said. That's good. The Scarlet Cloud King was relieved. If they killed the disciple of a blacksmith grandmaster, there would be a lot of trouble. Since they weren't master and disciple, there was nothing to be afraid of. Who are you guys? While the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud King were talking, Qin Yu looked at the great defensive array that appeared. His eyes flickered as he looked at Wu Xingqian, who was on the city wall. Could it be that these martial saints were sent by Wu Xingqian? If that was the case, then Wu Xingqian was digging his own grave. We're the ones who will kill you. The 2 martial saints sneered as their auras soared into the sky. With just you guys? You're still lacking. Qin Yu smiled faintly without any fear. Almost at the same time Qin Yu finished speaking, 2 silhouettes rushed over from the distant mountain range like 2 streams of light. They were the martial saints sent by the Royal Sacred Institute to protect the inner courtyard students. 2 martial saints are joining hands to attack a junior. Are the people of the 100 Battles dynasty so shameless? If you want to fight, we're more than happy to oblige. Putting down the injured inner courtyard students, the 2 martial saints from the Sacred Institute strode toward Qin Yu. Are they martial saints from the Sacred Institute? Second Prince, open the great defensive array and let them in. The students of the Sacred Institute on the city wall were overjoyed. The Holy Court actually sent 2 revered martial artists. Wu Xingqian's eyes darkened. This situation was beyond his expectation. Could it be that after taking such a big risk, Qin Yu would come back from the dead? Second Prince, isn't it time to open the defender array? Looking at the 4 martial saints fighting in the sky, Qin Yu brought the injured students and flew to the city gate. He looked at Wu Xingqian with a cold gaze. No. Wu Xingqian's eyes twitched. When he saw the army of martial kings and martial emperors from the 100 Battles dynasty getting closer to Luoshao City, killing intent flashed in his eyes. Qin Yu's eyes were even colder. It seemed that the sudden appearance of the 5 martial saints had something to do with Wu Xingqian. Second Prince? What do you mean? The students of the Sacred Institute looked at Wu Xingqian in confusion. The injured students outside the city were even more furious. Their injuries were serious. Even if they were far away from Luo Shao City, the martial emperors from the Hundred Battles dynasty might catch up. Wu Xingqian obviously didn't care about their lives. Now that the martial saints from the Hundred Battles dynasty are entangled, why don't you open the great defensive array and let the students in? This time, not only by Qin Yue, but also Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi questioned Wu Xingqian. The army of the Hundred Battles dynasty is already in front of us. If we open the great defensive array now, we might not be able to do it in time. So, we must not open the great defensive array. Wu Xingqian said righteously. It only takes a few breaths to reopen the great defensive array. How can it not be opened in time? Bai Qingyue's eyes were even more anxious. She said angrily, "Are you trying to kill them?" "Impudent!" Wu Xingqian's face turned cold. The spiritual inscriptions on his armor appeared, and a terrifying aura spread out. Bai Qingyue seemed to be hit by an invisible force. She groaned and retreated. "Second Prince, open the great defensive array." Yun Guxuan took a step forward and blocked the pressure. There are hundreds of thousands of people in the city who have not evacuated. Before the martial saints from the Hundred Battles dynasty come to help, the great defensive array must not be opened. Looking at Yun Guxuan, who stood up for Bai Qingyue, Wu Xingqian snorted and the spiritual inscriptions on his armor disappeared. Although he was afraid of the power of the Yun family fort, compared to the grudge with Qin Yu, even if he offended Yun Guxuan, he wanted Qin Yu to die here. There was only this one chance. The city lord and the others looked at the arbitrary Wu Xingqian and didn't say anything. Facing Wu Xingqian, who was most likely to become the crown prince and inherit the throne, they naturally didn't dare to refute. Chapter 81. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. While Wu Xingqian was delaying and not opening the defensive formation, 5 figures flew over from the distance. The 5 cultivators were all martial dominators with cultivations of the 8th layer martial dominator realm. Oh no! When the injured students of the Sacred Institute saw the 5 martial emperors, their expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with despair. "Coming for me again?" Qin Yu turned around and looked at the 5 martial monarchs whose auras were locked onto him. He raised his eyebrows. It was impossible for Wu Xingqian to not know about the battle between the Imperial Sacred Courtyard and the Shui clan. The martial emperor should not be able to deal with him. Could it be that this matter wasn't arranged by Wu Xingqian? Die. The 5 martial emperors did not hesitate at all. They flew over and immediately attacked. Boundless true elemental energy wreaked havoc in the void, evolving into a terrifying destructive attack, and fiercely bombarding Qin Yu. The 5 of them actually knew how to join forces in a formation. When the 5 of them combined their attacks, the power was comparable to that of a martial honorable. "Destroy!" Qin Yu's eyes flashed. Accompanied by a clear dragon roar, he charged forward. The hell-suppressing divine spear and the azure dragon battling the heavens combined. The spear thrust out as if Shenron had emerged from the sea, bringing with it a heaven-shaking might. Rumble! The formation formed by the 5 martial emperors collapsed on the spot, unable to withstand Qin Yu's attack. Puff puff puff, Qin Yu's figure flickered. Holding the long spear, he moved like a ghost. The 5 martial emperors had just noticed him when they were killed in an instant. What a powerful battle strength! It seems like it was not a fluke that he managed to block the attack of a martial highness. Surprise flashed across the eyes of the Heavenly Star Duke and the Red Cloud Duke. Although he had learned about Qin Yu's combat strength from the secret letter, he was still shocked to see it with his own eyes. Kill. Although Qin Yu had killed the 5 martial emperors, the situation had not improved. The Hundred Battles dynasty's tens of thousands of martial artists had already charged over. Like a tsunami, his killing intent soared into the sky, as if it was real, capable of suppressing and intimidating people's souls. Junior Qin Yu, This isn't something we can handle. Let's run. The faces of the injured students, who were originally filled with joy, darkened. They immediately turned around and fled. However, Qin Yu stood motionless in the air. One man and one spear, facing tens of thousands of martial artists without any fear. Not leaving? Inside the divine dragon ancient seal, the dragon's soul was slightly surprised. Could it be that Qin Yu was planning on protecting Luozhou City? This wasn't Qin Yu's character at all. All this time, as long as it didn't involve his family and friends, Qin Yu never meddled in other people's business. Dragon soul, haven't you noticed that there are still martial saints hiding in the shadows that have yet to appear? Qin Yu's gaze grew sharper. Of course I sense them, but their ability to conceal their aura is not weak. I can't find their specific hiding place. As the dragon soul spoke, it understood. You want to lure them out? Since he was still hiding at this moment, he naturally could not be a martial saint of the Zhenwu dynasty. Not only do we have to lure them out, but we also have to investigate what happened today and put an end to it. If he left now, some things would be difficult to investigate. Therefore, Qin Yu wanted to stay here and find out who was behind this. Before leaving the Zhenwu dynasty, all enemies against him had to be eliminated. Why isn't Qin Yu leaving? He can't be planning to fight the tens of thousands of martial artists of the 100 Battles dynasty alone, right? How is that possible? No matter how strong he is, to fight against tens of thousands of martial artists with his own strength, this is clearly courting death. On the city wall, the students of the Imperial Sacred Academy and the martial artists in the city noticed that Qin Yu had not moved, and their faces were filled with shock. By Qingyue, Yun Guxuan, Yun Shi and the others were even more anxious. They did not know what Qin Yu's intentions were. Only Wu Xingchen's eyes were even colder. Qin Yu was courting death, which was more in line with his wishes. Kill! Kill! After a short period of time, the tens of thousands of troops of the 100 Battles dynasty arrived like a tide. Roar! Qin Yu flew up high, and the azure dragon battle sky, which was revolving around the Warden Divine Spear, suddenly turned into a huge azure dragon that was 50 feet long. After letting out a dragon roar that resounded through the sky, the azure dragon battle sky roared and charged into the army of tens of thousands of martial artists. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless rays of dazzling azure light exploded, as if thousands of Shunran had exploded. In the 100 Battles dynasty's martial artists' army, there were hundreds of martial artists who were killed on the spot before they could react. After devouring the 100 Poison's inky flood dragon's dragon blood, the azure dragon battle sky's power had reached the honorable realm. The power that erupted at this moment was so strong that it could even kill a martial emperor in an instant. Dead silence. After the azure dragon battle sky's attack, whether it was the 100 Battles dynasty's martial artists' army that was filled with killing intent, or the martial artists in Luoshao City who were discussing endlessly. At this moment there was dead silence, not a single sound could be heard. Countless dazed gazes fell on the white-clothed youth, who was holding a long spear and standing in the void. Hundreds of martial kings and martial emperors were annihilated in one move. Even the 10 martial honorables, the Heavenly Star Duke, and the Scarlet Cloud Duke were shocked. Even with their cultivation, it was difficult for them to kill hundreds of martial kings and martial emperors in one move. What kind of secret technique was that? How could it have such terrifying power? 2 streams of dragon chi? It seems that before I refine the real dragon blood, I can't use the azure dragon battle sky on a large scale. Qin Yu, who had killed hundreds of martial artists in one move, looked calm as he sensed the consumption of dragon chi in the ancient seal of the divine dragon. Although the ancient seal of the divine dragon could automatically generate dragon chi, it could not withstand such consumption. Impossible! This is impossible! How could he be so strong? On the city wall, Wu Xingchen, who had been sneering, was now in a daze and his body was cold. Ever since he knew about the battle between the Shui clan and Qin Yu, Wu Xingqian had regarded Qin Yu as a great enemy and did not dare to underestimate him. That was why he had secretly contacted the Heavenly Star Duke's mansion and the Scarlet Cloud Duke's mansion in the Hundred Battles dynasty, wanting to kill Qin Yu in one move. However, Qin Yu's strength was like a bottomless pit, and no one knew how strong he was. From killing Shui Wudi to killing Shui Qingtian, to killing hundreds of martial kings and dozens of martial emperors in one move, it had only been half a day, but Qin Yu's combat strength seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change. Wu Xingqian found it hard to believe that such an unimaginable and illogical thing had happened. Furthermore, he could not help but feel regret in his heart for provoking Qin Yu. This was because Wu Xingqian finally understood that he and Qin Yu were not on the same level. Why? Are you not going to attack? Dragon roars resounded again. Qin Yu's body was surrounded by ancient dragons. He looked at the Hundred Battles dynasty with an indifferent expression. That was the army of several tens of thousands whose faces were faintly pale. Whoosh! Seeing the ancient azure dragon around Qin Yu's body appear again, the Hundred Battles dynasty's martial artists all retreated far away. In the blink of an eye, no one dared to step within 100 feet of Qin Yu. What a monster! Looking at Qin Yu, who had single-handedly intimidated the army of tens of thousands of martial artists, the martial honorables of the Zhenwu dynasty could not help but sigh. Chapter 82. At the age of 16, Su Mo was able to suppress tens of thousands of enemies with just one spear. No one in the entire history of the Great Eastern Territory could achieve such a feat. Boom! While the crowd was shocked by Qin Yu's terrifying combat strength, a terrifying pillar of fire suddenly attacked. It was so powerful that it could burn the sky. Finally, you can't take it anymore. Qin Yu's eyes flashed as he thrust his battle spear forward, causing the space to shake. The oncoming pillar of fire was directly destroyed by a single spear strike. God's slaying sword. However, the sneak attack did not end there. Behind Qin Yu, a dazzling sword radiance appeared. It was like the sun rising in the sky, and it was like the god of death descending upon the world. It carried with it a destructive force as it slashed toward Qin Yu. Given the power of this sword, it was likely that even a small mountain would be directly cut into pieces. 9 battles 9 heavens! Qin Yu thrust his spear backward, and 9 streaks of green spear radiance attacked the sky like 9 wild dragons. Boom! The two of them collided violently in the void, and the violent and brutal true essence was like a wave, spreading out wave after wave. Martial honorables! This sudden turn of events caused the originally shocked and deathly silent warriors to regain their senses one after another. Everyone focused their gazes and looked over. They saw that a silhouette had appeared in the space before and behind Qin Yu. Judging by the terrifying aura that they emitted, they were martial honorables. It's the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke. Seeing the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke, the martial artists of the Hundred Battles dynasty were delighted. The Hundred Battles dynasty actually has martial honorables. However, the martial artists of the Zhenwu dynasty in Luoshao City were shocked. With the current situation in Luoshao City, a martial honorable was enough to change the situation. Moreover, there were 2 martial honorables. Great! On the city wall, Wu Xingqian, who was shivering, heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke. His eyes were filled with joy. Regardless of the size, the Duke of a county in a dynasty was equivalent to a marquis. Those who could become marquis were naturally top-notch in terms of combat strength among martial honorables. Now that there were 2 Duke of a county, Qin Yu would definitely not be able to turn the situation around. 2 revered martial artists. Bai Qingyue and the others looked at the besieged Qin Yu and started to worry again. Although Qin Yu's battle prowess was truly terrifying, everyone present could see that. The reason why Qin Yu was able to kill hundreds of martial kings and martial emperors in one move was probably because of that secret technique. After using such a powerful secret technique, it was impossible for there to be no repercussions. Now that he was facing two martial highnesses, would Qin Yu be able to handle it? Save them! The faces of the two revered martial artists from the royal sacred courtyard changed, and they immediately prepared to save Qin Yu. Stay here. The two martial highnesses of the 100 Battles dynasty naturally would not let them do as they wished, and immediately pounced on them. They were invited by the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke. Naturally, they would not allow the people from the Imperial Sacred Institute to ruin their plans. Second Prince, you seem a little happy? On the city wall, Yun Guxuan, who had been paying attention to Wu Xingqian, suddenly said. Yun Guxuan's words immediately attracted the gazes of the cultivators on the city wall. Nonsense, there is a martial highness in the enemy country, and the students of the Sacred Institute are in danger. Why should I be happy? Wu Xingqian's face changed slightly, but his expression soon returned to normal. This scene caused many thoughts to surface in the hearts of many people on the city wall. Especially the students of the Sacred Institute who knew about the grudge between Qin Yu and Wu Xingqian. They had even more sinister thoughts. So it's you guys. When Qin Yu saw the insignia on the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke, he came to a realization. He was still wondering who could send 7 martial highnesses to deal with him, and now he finally understood. With the connections of the two dukes, it was not difficult for them to invite 5 martial highnesses. Brat, how dare you kill my son? Prepare to pay with your life today. The Scarlet Cloud Duke's killing intent soared to the sky, and his true origin, which was as hot as lava, whizzed through the heavens and the earth. It was as if the surrounding area was on fire. Judging from the Scarlet Cloud Duke's tone, it seemed that he had already confirmed Qin Yu's identity. You can't even protect yourself, and you still want to take revenge? Qin Yu smiled faintly and did not deny it at all. Today, neither of them would be able to leave alive. It's really you. Immediately, the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke's killing intent became more intense. Previously, they were just testing, but now Qin Yu's words meant that he had admitted it. Pay with your life. The two of them shouted angrily and attacked again. Raging flames appeared on the Scarlet Cloud Duke's body, and it turned into a sea of fire that covered the heavens and the earth. It covered Qin Yu. The Heavenly Star Duke held the ancient sword in his hand and turned into a sword radiance. With a sword momentum that swept up the wind and clouds, he attacked. Whoosh! Qin Yu used his mind, and a 7-colored light turned into a 7-star ancient pagoda and soared into the sky. The dazzling 7-colored starlight scattered and turned into a 7-colored starlight area. An earthly spiritual weapon? No, an earthly spiritual weapon can't be so powerful. Could it be? It's a heaven weapon. The Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke, who were attacking fiercely, turned pale. The moment they entered the 7-star ancient pagoda, their cultivation levels were suppressed by almost 40%. What did it mean to have their cultivation levels suppressed by 40%? It meant that if they fought with someone of the same rank, they would have an overwhelming advantage. The power of the 7-star ancient pagoda was so terrifying. At the thought of this, the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke's eyes were filled with greed. If they could get their hands on the 7-star ancient pagoda, their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. They could even become the top martial honorables in the Great Eastern Territory. What a terrifying oppression! What spiritual weapon is that? Even the martial honorables outside the 7-star ancient pagoda were shocked and did not dare to get close. The closer they were to the 7-star ancient pagoda, the slower the true origin in their bodies became. Break! As the 7-star ancient pagoda appeared, Qin Yu shook his wrist and a dragon's roar sounded. He stabbed his spear forward and back. two shocking spear radiances exploded and the attacks of the Heavenly Star Duke and the Scarlet Cloud Duke were shattered again. Lad, today I will show you the true power of a martial honorable. The Scarlet Cloud Duke formed a seal with his hands and his aura surged. In a flash, he appeared in front of Qin Yu. Shush! With a move of his right hand, the Scarlet Cloud Duke sent a fiery red light seal into Qin Yu's forehead. Qin Yu's body stiffened and his eyes became dazed. No matter how strong you are, you will not be able to use your soul if you are not a martial honorable. Before the Scarlet Cloud Duke could finish his sneer, he noticed that Qin Yu's eyes were filled with a dreamy light. When the Scarlet Cloud Duke saw the dreamy light, he immediately fell into it and stood there motionless like a puppet. How is this possible? The Heavenly Star Duke, who had been gloomy when he saw the Scarlet Cloud Duke had the upper hand, was horrified. He immediately retreated without hesitation. He clearly saw Qin Yu being attacked by the Scarlet Cloud Duke's soul energy. Why did the Scarlet Cloud Duke look like he was the one being attacked? Chapter 83. A martial honorable was called a martial honorable because he had awakened his soul power and could use soul attack. Therefore, even though they had seen the power of the Green Dragon battle the heavens, the Red Cloud King and the Sky Star Duke were still confident in attacking Qin Yu. However, how could this overwhelming advantage be ineffective against Qin Yu? Wu Xingchen is indeed behind this. After probing the Red Cloud King's soul with the secret skill of the soul skills, a cold light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. Although Qin Yu had only awakened his soul power for the first time, he could already use soul skills. However, this would put a huge burden on Qin Yu's soul power, so he rarely used it. It's time to end this. Since Qin Yu knew what had happened, he did not hold back the Red Cloud King and struck out with his palm. The famous martial honorable of the 100 Battles dynasty, the Red Cloud King, was dead. This scene stunned the tens of thousands of martial artists from the 100 Battles dynasty and the martial artists from the Zhen Wu dynasty on the city wall. They felt as if they were in a dream. Martial honorable. That was a martial honorable. Even in the Great Eastern Territory or the entire Qingzhou, a martial honorable was definitely a top figure. However, a martial honorable who had been conferred the title of Duke was killed by a young man? Who exactly is he? The faces of the 5 martial highnesses of the 100 Battles dynasty turned cold, and their bodies shivered. It was common knowledge that only a martial honorable could deal with a martial honorable. However, Qin Yu, who was a martial king, had killed a martial honorable and looked down on the world. If they had been the ones who had gone to deal with Qin Yu, they would have been the ones who had died. Roar! With a loud dragon roar, Qin Yu stood on the dragon's head. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the Sky Star Duke, who was about to escape. The 7-star ancient pagoda turned into a ray of 7-star light and moved with Qin Yu. Rays of 7-colored light completely sealed the Sky Star Duke. Die for me! Die for me! The Tianqing Commandery Prince, who had nowhere to run, looked terrified and desperate. He was no longer as arrogant as before. He frantically attacked like a ferocious beast on the verge of death, making his final struggle. Unfortunately, with the power of the 7-star ancient pagoda, even if it could not unleash its full power, it could easily suppress a martial honorable. Soul light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. The Tianqing Commandery Prince's body shook, and his eyes immediately dimmed. However, he did not die. Qin Yu controlled the Tianqing Commandery Prince and brought him to the outside of the defender array of Luoshao City. When the martial artists on the city wall saw this, they scattered in all directions. They were afraid of the Tianqing Commandery Prince and were also afraid of Qin Yu. Second Prince, there's a good show. Do you want to hear it? Qin Yu looked at Wu Xingchen, who was sweating profusely and didn't dare to look at him in the eye. I wonder what kind of show it is? The corners of Wu Xingchen's eyes twitched wildly, not daring to say anything. However, Yun Guxian stood out and joined in the fun. It's a show where a prince of the dynasty secretly colludes with the enemy's commandery prince? Qin Yu smiled indifferently. When the martial artists on the city wall heard Qin Yu's words, they all looked at Wu Xingchen. When they thought of Wu Xingchen's strange behavior of refusing to open the defender array and keeping Qin Yu out of the city, they all understood what was going on. Qin Yu, don't you dare slander me! Wu Xingchen's face changed drastically. He could no longer remain silent and shouted angrily. Slander me? Ha ha! Qin Yu chuckled, with a thought in his mind. Immediately, the Tianqing commandery prince revealed how he got the secret letter, his plan, and his speculation to the public. With every word that the Tianqing commandery prince said, Wu Xingchen's face turned uglier. The martial artists' gazes changed obviously, and many of them were disgusted. When countless soldiers were killed at the border and the country was destroyed, the second prince of the dynasty was only thinking about his personal grudge. If Qin Yu was defeated today, the 7 martial honorables of the 100 Battles dynasty would definitely be able to break through the defender array of Luo Shao City. At that time, Wu Xingchen could use the teleportation array to escape. However, the lives of hundreds of thousands of people in the city would be lost. Enough. He has been bewitched by you. Qin Yu, do you know who I am? Do you know the consequences of slandering me like this? Before the Tianqing commandery prince could finish his words, Wu Xingchen roared crazily. His eyes were bloodshot and he stared at Qin Yu like a ferocious beast. Of course I know who you are. You are the second prince, but so what? Qin Yu moved his right hand and killed the Tianqing commandery prince. The Spirit Annihilation Martial Honorable killed the Tianqing commandery prince as easily as slaughtering chickens and duck. Many people felt a chill in their hearts, and their respect for Qin Yu grew stronger. He really dares to kill me? Wu Xingchen felt a chill run down his spine when Qin Yu stared at him, as if he was looking at an inanimate object. Without hesitation, Wu Xingchen turned around and flew towards the teleportation array in the city. Qin Yu's stare made Wu Xingchen feel the real feeling of death. If he continued to stay here, Qin Yu might really kill him. Boom! However, just as Wu Xingchen moved, a crisp explosion sounded out. Wu Xingchen had an ominous feeling, and when he turned around, he was scared out of his wits. He saw Qin Yu pressing his hand on the defender array, and the defender array, which even a martial honorable could not break through in a short period of time, immediately collapsed. Swoosh! Under Wu Xingchen's horrified gaze, Qin Yu caught up with him like a ghost. It's time to go. Qin Yu punched out and Wu Xingchen was immediately severely injured. He spat out blood and flew backwards. No, I'm the second prince of the Zhen Wu royal family. You can't kill me. If you kill me, your Qin family won't have a good ending. My father will definitely exterminate your Qin family. Wu Xingchen screamed in despair, and mentioned the Zhen Wu royal family in an attempt to intimidate Qin Yu. Now Wu Xingchen was filled with regret. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to kill Qin Yu, he would have sent a message back and asked a martial honorable to come and help. If there was a martial honorable here, he would be able to stop Qin Yu for a while. If that's the case, then the Lord of the Empire can be changed. Qin Yu's indifferent voice did not fluctuate at all. Wait. Stop. At this moment, the 2 martial honorable elders of the Imperial Sacred Academy and the 3 martial honorables, who were originally stationed in Luo Shao City, flew towards Qin Yu and Wu Xingchen. Help! Wu Xingchen seemed to be grabbing onto his last life-saving straw as he screamed for help. Crack! But before he could finish his words, his voice suddenly stopped. Qin Yu calmly retracted his hand and Wu Xingchen's corpse fell from the sky. Damn it! The 3 martial honorables of Luo Shao City changed their expressions and immediately caught Wu Xingchen. When they saw that Wu Xingchen's aura was gone and he was completely dead, their expressions turned ugly. Wu Xingchen was killed under their protection. If the imperial family were to blame them, they would not be able to escape. Do you know what you've done? Those three martial artists stared at Qin Yu with gloomy and uncertain expressions. If you say another word, I'll kill all of you. Qin Yu's eyes turned cold and his words were filled with killing intent. Chapter 84. Hearing Qin Yu's murderous words, the three revered martial artists, who were reprimanding and questioning, changed their expressions. They subconsciously distanced themselves from Qin Yu. The bodies of the Red Cloud King and the Heavenly Star King were still warm. Naturally, they did not dare to anger Qin Yu. The questioning just now was just a subconscious reaction. After all, the one who died here was the most outstanding prince of the Zhen Wu royal family. He was almost destined to be the crown prince in the future. Seeing the dead Wu Xingqian, the martial artists on the city wall all came to their senses. They were even more afraid and in awe of Qin Yu. Even the second prince was killed without hesitation. Was there anyone else he did not dare to touch? Something big is going to happen. Bai Qingyue and the other students of the Saint Institute looked serious. Killing Wu Xingqian in public, Qin Yu's action was tantamount to slapping the Zhen Wu royal family in the face. Whether it was for the sake of face or revenge for Wu Xingqian, the Zhen Wu royal family would never let it go. The Zhen Wu royal family. They had been the ruler of the dynasty for thousands of years because of their absolute power. Even if Qin Yu was a genius, he would never be able to withstand the wrath of a royal family. I'll give you 10 breaths of time. If anyone appears in my sight again, I'll kill them without mercy. Qin Yu's figure flashed and appeared in the sky above Luoshao City. His cold eyes looked at the tens of thousands of martial artists of the Baizhan dynasty. Boom! Immediately, the tens of thousands of martial artists of the Baizhan dynasty flew away frantically. They did not want to die in vain in front of a ruthless man who had easily killed 2 revered martial kings. Although they were martial artists of the Baizhan dynasty, they were not from the military. This time, they came just to fish in troubled waters. If they had known it would be so dangerous, they would not have come. After ordering the martial artists of the Baizhan dynasty to retreat, Qin Yu did not stay in Luoshao City for long. Accompanied by a dragon's roar, he quickly disappeared into the distant sky. The city guards were destroyed by Qin Yu. Now that he had ordered the army of the Baizhan dynasty to retreat, the crisis of Luoshao City was resolved. The grudges were settled. Naturally, there was no need to stay here. Quickly send a message back to the imperial city. After Qin Yu disappeared, the 3 martial highnesses reacted and immediately went to the teleportation portal in the city to send someone to deliver the news. We have to inform the dean of this matter immediately. The 2 martial highnesses of the imperial family glanced at each other and also sent people to the imperial family's sacred courtyard. Let's go. On the city wall, Yun Guxuan flew into the air. Brother, where are we going? Yun Shi asked as he followed closely behind. Dragon Spirit City. After killing Wu Xingqian, Qin Yu would definitely return to Dragon Spirit City to settle down the Qin family. The situation was just as Yun Guxuan had expected. Qin Yu, who was flying at top speed, returned to Dragon Spirit City in an hour. After returning to the Qin family, Qin Yu informed Qin Tianhu to gather the clansmen while setting up a teleportation array. Although there were only 1,000 direct descendants of the Qin clan, their cultivation was too low. If they wanted to escort them away, they could only set up a teleportation formation. Rumble. However, Qin Yu still underestimated the Zhen Wu royal family's reaction. Not long after he returned to the Qin family, the Zhen Wu royal family sent a large army to surround Dragon Spirit City. Where is Qin Yu? In the sky above Dragon Spirit City, many figures flew into the sky and shouted. The sound waves were like waves, shocking people's hearts. The 1,000 people above Dragon Spirit City were all martial monarchs and martial highnesses. They came really quickly. Qin Yu, who had finished setting up the teleportation portal, stood up. Master Guyuan, I've finished setting up the teleportation portal. I'll have to trouble you to escort my clansmen away later. Qin Yu turned his head and said to Master Guyuan, who had appeared out of nowhere, "This is a small matter. However, what did you do to provoke the royal family's army?" Master Guyuan was shocked when he saw Qin Yu setting up the teleportation portal. The speed at which he set up the teleportation portal was too shocking. "That's right, Xiao Yu. What happened?" Qin Tianhu's expression changed drastically when he saw the royal family's army surrounding Dragon Spirit City so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. With the Zhen Wu royal family's army, not to mention the Qin family, even a duke's manor would be easily crushed. "It's nothing major. I just killed the Zhen Wu royal family's second prince," Qin Yu said indifferently. "You killed the Zhen Wu royal family's second prince?" However, Qin Yu's indifferent words were like thunder in the Qin family's ears. They were all stunned. "You killed the Zhen Wu royal family's prince? You call that nothing major? The second prince? You mean Wu Xingqian, right? I've heard of him. I heard that he is the prince with the most outstanding talent among this generation of Zhen Wu royal family's princes." Master Guyuan thought for a while and smiled bitterly. No wonder the Zhen Wu royal family mobilized so many people. "I'll go and meet them. Second uncle, listen to Master Guyuan's arrangements later. Someone will receive you after you leave through the teleportation portal." Qin Yu instructed as he looked at the martial monarchs and martial highnesses flying into the sky. Then, he soared into the sky. Whoosh! As Qin Yu appeared, a figure flew out from the Zhen Wu royal family's army. It was an old man with white hair and a youthful face. He wore a golden dragon robe and had a shocking aura. "That's Wu Chunyang. He actually came out of seclusion?" When Master Guyuan saw the old man in the dragon robe, a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. "Wu Chunyang?" Qin Tianhu was slightly stunned. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. He said with a trembling voice, "Could it be the retired emperor?" The Qin family's people trembled. Their eyes were filled with shock. The retired emperor actually came personally? "That's right." Master Guyuan nodded slightly. His eyes were slightly serious. Not only was Wu Chunyang the retired emperor of Zhen Wu royal family, but he was also the only martial ancestor expert in Zhen Wu royal family. Grandmaster Guyuan also felt surprised as his eyes turned grave. It was just a prince being killed, but Wu Chunyang actually came personally. His reaction seemed a little too big. Fifth martial ancestor realm. In the void, Qin Yu looked at Wu Chunyang indifferently. He did not look anxious at all. It was as if he was not facing a martial ancestor. "You are Qin Yu?" Qin Yu's indifference and calmness caused Wu Chunyang to be slightly surprised. Being able to keep a straight face in front of him. Just this courage alone was enough to show that he was not an ordinary person. "I am Qin Yu." Qin Yu nodded slightly. "Do you know why I am here?" Wu Chunyang asked. "Other than Wu Xingqian, I can't think of any other reason," Qin Yu said indifferently. Wu Xingqian was wrong to collude with the enemy. However, he is a descendant of the royal family. You killed him without permission. Have you ever taken Zhen Wu royal family seriously? Wu Chunyang narrowed his eyes. A strange look flashed across his eyes. Since it has come to this, there is no point in saying more. What do you want? Qin Yu said directly. Since you killed someone, you naturally have to pay with your life. Wu Chunyang said sternly. The martial emperors and martial honorables in the city all took a step forward. Their killing intent surged and dispersed the wind and clouds. Let's see if you have the ability to do so. However, Qin Yu's expression did not change at all. It was as if he did not feel the pressure of a martial ancestor. As he spoke, the spiritual array plate appeared in his hand silently. The green dragon was not powerful enough to deal with a martial ancestor. He could only use the heaven punishment array. Fortunately, as his cultivation entered the martial king realm, the heaven punishment killing intent was completely awakened. Qin Yu could now use the spiritual array plate to activate the entire heaven punishment array. With 99 bursts of heaven punishing killing intent bursting forth, even if it was a martial ancestor, Qin Yu would not be able to escape. Chapter 85. Hearing Qin Yu's arrogant words, Wu Chunyang's gaze turned sharper. He stared at Qin Yu like a blade. The Zhenwu royal family experts in the city were filled with murderous intent. Their aura seemed to have materialized and became even more terrifying. Qin Yu did not retreat at all. The heavens killing formation in the spiritual formation was ready to erupt at any time. Ha! As expected of Qin Tianfeng's son. Like father, like son. After a long confrontation, Wu Chunyang laughed heartily with murderous intent. The originally murderous atmosphere also dissipated like a gust of wind. Qin Tianfeng? Qin Yu was stunned and did not react. You know my father? Qin Tianfeng was the father that he had never met. Qin Yu was not the only one who was confused. The Zhenwu royal family experts were also confused. Weren't they here for revenge? Why did the patriarch's attitude change so drastically all of a sudden? All of you disperse? Wu Chunyang waved his hand. The Zhenwu royal family experts looked at each other and left respectfully. Follow me. Wu Chunyang's body moved. He landed in the Qin clan. Qin Yu followed closely behind him. Master Gu Yuan. Wu Chunyang did not seem surprised to see Gu Yuan in the Qin clan. He smiled gently. Retired Emperor. Although Gu Yuan was an alchemy grandmaster, he was very respectful to a martial ancestor expert. If he became an alchemy grandmaster one day, he would be on par with a martial ancestor. Retired Emperor. Qin Tianhu and the rest of the Qin clan had never seen the retired emperor before. They all knelt and greeted him. Patriarch Qin, there's no need to be so restrained. Get up. Wu Chunyang smiled faintly with a kind expression. How do you know my father? Among the people present, the only person who was not nervous was Qin Yu. Your father and I met 20 years ago. Wu Chunyang asked the Qin clan members to disperse. Only Qin Tianhu and Gu Yuan remained. 20 years ago? Gu Yuan exclaimed softly as if he recalled something. That's right. It was when I officially stepped into the martial ancestor realm. Wu Chunyang smiled. It was all thanks to your father's help that I was able to become a martial ancestor. It couldn't be, right? Qin Tianhu opened his mouth wide in disbelief. His elder brother, Qin Tianfeng, was actually so formidable? Qin Yu didn't have much of a reaction. 20 years ago, he wasn't even born yet. Furthermore, it would not be difficult to help someone become a martial ancestor. However, since his father had been able to help Wu Chunyang enter Wu Zong 20 years ago, Wu Chunyang would not be able to enter Wu Zong. How could the Qin clan be in such dire straits? One had to know that before Qin Yu rose to power, the Qin family didn't even have a single heaven realm. 20 years ago, when my uncle passed away, there was no martial arts grandmaster in the empire. The big countries at the border frequently harassed us. Fortunately, at that time, your father appeared and helped me break through to the martial ancestor realm. That is why the empire is so stable now. Originally, I was planning to support your Qin clan to become one of the great clans of the dynasty in order to repay you. However, strangely, your father didn't ask me to do so. He only asked me to protect the Qin clan secretly and let nature take its course. Wu Chunyang said when he saw Qin Yu's confused gaze. Why is that? Qin Yu frowned. Qin Tianan was also confused. If his elder brother really had such ability, there was no reason for him not to help the Qin clan. However, after hearing Wu Chunyang's words, Qin Tianan recalled something. In the past 10 years, the Qin clan had indeed been in danger many times. However, they had been silently resolved. I don't know the exact reason either. Wu Chunyang shook his head and looked at Qin Tianhu. You probably don't know that your elder brother's cultivation had already reached the martial ancestor realm 20 years ago. Qin Tianhu was shocked again. Although he knew that his elder brother's talent was shocking and his cultivation was outstanding, he didn't know that his elder brother had already reached the martial ancestor realm 20 years ago. 20 years ago, his elder brother should only be 18 years old, right? Second uncle, you don't know anything? Qin Yu was even more confused. His father seemed to be intentionally hiding his strength. But why? I really don't know. About 23 years ago, your father participated in the 100 Countries tournament. However, he disappeared for 3 years. At that time, we all thought that your father had already died. It was only 3 years later, when your grandfather passed away from illness, that your father returned to the clan. However, he only stayed for 2 months before leaving in a hurry. After another 4 years, your father carried you back and left in a hurry. Qin Tianhu recalled, until now there has been no news of him. Could it be related to my mother? Qin Yu's expression changed slightly as he took out the light green jade pendant that his father had left for him. Back then, due to the double seal on the jade pendant, Qin Yu's cultivation was too weak and he couldn't break the seal. However, the situation was different now. So it requires the cultivation of a martial ancestor to break the seal. The battle dragon's true energy and soul energy surged into the jade pendant. However, the battle dragon's true energy was obstructed. Qin Yu directly used the azure dragon battling the heavens. Not long after, the double seal on the jade pendant was broken. The narcissus on the jade pendant emitted a dazzling light. Immediately after, the narcissus separated from the jade pendant and turned into a narcissus imprint that entered Qin Yu's body. In the next moment, a steady voice resounded in Qin Yu's mind. Xiao Yu, when you broke the seal on the jade pendant, your cultivation must have already advanced to martial ancestor. I'm very sorry that I couldn't accompany you all these years because your mother is still imprisoned in the serene cold secret palace of the water fairy sacred ground for us. The reason why I left you the jade pendant is because I hope that one day, if I die, you must go to the water fairy sacred ground and save your mother. The voice that came from the jade pendant was Qin Yu's father, Qin Tianfeng. After hearing the words in the jade pendant, Qin Yu's previous doubts were completely cleared up. After his father participated in the 100 Countries battlefield, he had successfully entered the water fairy sacred ground, one of the 5 great sacred grounds, and met his mother in the sacred ground. However, his mother had a high status in the water fairy sacred ground and seemed to have a marriage alliance with some force. Later, when his mother gave birth to him and their affair was exposed, the water fairy sacred ground was furious and sent people to kill the father and son. His mother begged with her life, and even voluntarily imprisoned herself in the serene cold secret palace of the forbidden grounds, swearing that she would never step out. This was also the reason why his father didn't want the Qin clan to rise. This was because he didn't want the Qin clan to be too powerful and attract the attention of the water fairy sacred ground. Qin Yu let out a heavy breath. Although he had never met his parents, after hearing the words of the jade pendant, Qin Yu felt an indescribable emotion in his heart. This should be the feeling of having parents protecting you. The moment Qin Yu broke the jade pendant, in a wasteland far away from the Zhen Wu dynasty, the figure of a bulky figure holding a pitch-black ancient saber stiffened. This person suddenly turned his head and revealed a handsome face that had been through a lot as he looked excitedly in a certain direction. Crack! In the void in front of this person, a strange beast that was as large as a mountain and surrounded by thousands of lightning bolts spat out a destructive lightning beam that attacked that person. However, that person turned a blind eye and allowed the lightning to strike his body. He still looked in that direction with tears in his eyes. Little Yu. Chapter 86. Xiao Yu, what's wrong? Qin Tianhu asked worriedly when he saw Qin Yu holding the jade pendant motionlessly. I'm fine. Qin Yu came back to his senses and shook his head. He did not tell anyone about the jade pendant. The Water Fairy Sacred Ground was one of the 5 sacred grounds that dominated the Tianlong continent. Therefore, the grudge between the Qin clan and the Water Fairy Sacred Ground could not be spread. Otherwise, the Qin clan would be in big trouble. That was why his father did not want the Qin clan to be too ostentatious and keep a low profile. Retired Emperor, since you're not here for revenge, why did you come with such fanfare? After knowing the cause and effect of the matter, Qin Yu was no longer worried about the Zhen Wu royal family. His father had become a martial ancestor 20 years ago, and his cultivation must be even more terrifying now. As long as Wu Chunyang was not sure whether his father was dead or alive, he would not attack the Qin clan. The royal family's descendant was killed, and the royal family had to put on a show. Otherwise, they would lose face. Of course, I have another matter. I hope that you can participate in the 100 Countries battlefield. I know your strength. If you participate in the 100 Countries battlefield, you can definitely enter the sacred ground. Wu Chunyang said. Will it benefit the royal family if I enter the sacred ground to cultivate? Qin Yu would indeed participate in the 100 Countries battlefield and enter the Water Fairy Sacred Ground. However, Qin Yu was surprised that Wu Chunyang wanted him to do so. That's right. If you enter the sacred ground as a martial artist of the Zhen Wu royal family, the sacred ground will be rewarded greatly. The sacred ground will give out a huge reward that can double the strength of the dynasty. Of course, I won't let you do it for free. I heard from Xiang that you asked him for an ancient map? Wu Chunyang said as he flipped his right hand and an ancient box appeared in his hand. You have that map too? Qin Yu's expression changed. He took the ancient case. When the ancient box opened, a tattered ancient map appeared in it. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with joy as he took out the ancient map. The 2 incomplete maps combined to form a brand new map. 100 Countries battlefield, Ghost Demon Cave. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Now that he knew the exact location, the 9 Serenities Hell Dragon wouldn't be able to escape. Ghost Demon Cave? I remember that it's a forbidden area in the 100 Countries battlefield, right? Gu Yuan glanced at it and said after pondering for a moment. Indeed, rumor has it that the Ghost Demon Cave is a forbidden area that even the experts of the Holy Lands won't easily set foot in. Wu Chunyang had obtained the ancient map fragment for a long time, so he had naturally heard about the Ghost Demon Cave. Qin Yu laughed. If there really was a 9 Serenities Hell Dragon there. With the martial arts standards of the Sky Dragon continent, it was normal that no one dared to go there. After chatting for a while, Wu Chunyang took his leave. Wu Chunyang planned to let Qin Yu participate in the 100 Countries battlefield to atone for his crime and make a public announcement about how he would deal with Wu Xingchen's death. In this way, although the true martial royal family would lose face, it was still acceptable. After all, the hundreds of empires in the Azure continent were all racking their brains to send their geniuses to the sacred land in order to obtain rewards from the sacred land and strengthen their nation's strength. The stronger the nation's strength, the more benefits it would gain from the other nations. The current superpowers in the continent basically relied on the 5 sacred lands to develop. The retired emperor doesn't seem to care much about the second prince's death. Qin Tianhu wiped the cold sweat off his face only after Wu Chunyang had led the royal army away. The retired emperor of the royal family was a martial arts grandmaster expert. He really couldn't deal with such a person calmly. Since ancient times, the royal family has been the most heartless. I'm afraid that Wu Chunyang only has the legacy of the royal family in his heart. Gu Yuan shook his head and smiled. As long as the princes aren't all dead, he probably won't care. Qin Yu, on the other hand, was thinking about the matter of the Qin clan. Currently, the Qin family was protected by the true martial royal family and wouldn't be in danger. However, if news of the Water Fairy Sacred Land spread in the future, countless forces would attack the Qin family in order to curry favor with the Water Fairy Sacred Land. At that time, not only would the true martial royal family not protect the Qin family, but they would also attack the Qin family first. Qin Yu felt that he had to arrange a way out for the Qin family before he left. With this thought in mind, Qin Yu immediately set about setting up a powerful formation in the Qin family. He also removed the short-distance teleportation formation that he had set up in a hurry. He set up a huge long-distance teleportation formation in the Qin family's ancestral hall. Fortunately, Qin Yu had killed many martial kings, martial monarchs, and 2 martial saints along the way. This made him very rich. Otherwise, Qin Yu wouldn't have been able to set up these formations. While Qin Yu was setting up the formations, Gu Yuan returned to his winery and continued to live in seclusion. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi came to the Qin family under the night sky. Qin Yu had asked them to guard outside the city and receive the Qin family members who were teleported out. Now that the Qin family was fine, they naturally came to the Qin family. After Qin Yu settled the matters of the Qin family, they would bring Qin Yu back to the Yun family fort. It was late at night and the bright moon was in the sky. While the majority of the people were sleeping, there was a power that was feeling uneasy. Shui clan of the imperial city. How could this be? That little bastard killed the son of the imperial family, and the retired emperor let him go? The one who spoke was Shui Zhongshan, who had lost control and roared with a ferocious expression. The people of the Shui clan who were standing below all looked grave and uneasy. Did he really kill the Heavenly Star Duke and the Red Cloud Duke of the 100 Battles dynasty? At this moment, a calm voice sounded. It was a gray-bearded elder beside Shui Zhongshan who spoke. This is absolutely true. Countless people in Luoshao City witnessed it. A Shui clan elder hurriedly replied respectfully. This gray-bearded elder was the Shui clan's patriarch, Shui Wanqian. Shui Wanqian's status was higher than Shui Zhongshan's in both the Shui clan and the Zhenwu dynasty. This was because Shui Wanqian's cultivation had reached the peak of martial saint, and it was very likely that he would become a martial ancestor in the future. In other words, the information in this secret letter is true. Shui Wanqian muttered to himself, "Is the 7-star ancient pagoda really a heaven artifact? Big brother, we can't let that little bastard participate in the 100 countries tournament. Otherwise, with his talent and strength, he will definitely be able to enter the sacred land to cultivate." Shui Zhongshan looked anxious. By then, the Shui clan will be in real danger. Now you know how to be anxious? If you knew this would happen, why didn't you personally use the killing honorable array to kill him? Shui Wanqian snorted heavily. Xie Ying represented the imperial family. I can't really fall out with him. Shui Zhongshan's face was bitter and filled with regret. Idiot. If you had killed him that day, even if the retired emperor blamed you, as long as I was around, how severe would the punishment be for the Shui clan? Shui Wanqian shouted sternly. Don't forget that the retired emperor doesn't care about anyone's life, but the strength of the dynasty and the inheritance of the imperial family. Seeing the furious Shui Wanqian, Shui Zhongshan did not dare to talk back. The Shui clan naturally trembled with fear. Then, big brother, now that the retired emperor has ordered that no one can target that little bastard, we can't really do nothing, right? After a while, Shui Zhongshan asked tentatively. Chapter 87. Nonsense. If we really don't do anything, then the Shui clan will be doomed. Shui Wanqian snorted. If Qin Yu were to enter the sacred academy to train, the Shui clan would have no chance of survival. The Shui clan and the others were excited and waited for Shui Wanqian's orders. What about the retired emperor? Shui Zhongshan hesitated. Now is not the time to be afraid. As long as we can kill that brat, it will be worth it even if we have to offend the retired emperor. Shui Wanqian sneered. Of course, there was another important reason that he did not mention. It was the 7-star ancient pagoda that Qin Yu had that might be a heaven weapon that had attracted his attention. As long as he could get his hands on that heaven weapon, he would be able to defeat a martial ancestor with his cultivation rank. More importantly, a heaven weapon might give him the opportunity to break through to martial ancestor. He had been at the peak of the martial honorable realm for a long time. If this continued, his birthday would come. Therefore, even if he had to offend the imperial family, he had to give it a try. Big brother, what do you plan to do? Shui Zhongshan's expression turned fierce when he heard his brother's words. This information is good. Shui Wanqian looked at the information in his hand and sneered. Shui Zhongshan noticed that Shui Wanqian's gaze was fixed on a name and sneered. 5 days later, in Dragon's spiritual city. Second uncle, have you memorized the control of the killing array? In the Qin clan, Qin Yu told Qin Tianhu the control method of the killing array that he had left in the Qin clan. Although Gu Yuanhui had been helping the Qin clan because of the soul-returning elixir, it was better to rely on oneself than on others. If there was an emergency, Qin Tianhu would have to deal with it himself. I have. Qin Tianhu nodded. The control method of the killing array that Qin Yu had left behind was not complicated. However, Qin Yu's preparations made Qin Tianhu's face turn serious. Since Qin Yu had made such preparations, he must have found out something from the jade pendant that his brother had left behind. When Qin Yu heard this, he took out the golden skeleton that he had refined again. Its combat strength had reached the level of a martial emperor. This golden skeleton contained a trace of his soul power, so he didn't need to use the killing formation in the face of ordinary danger. At this point, all the preparations that Qin Yu had left behind in the Qin clan were completed. Xiao Yu, are you leaving dynasty? Seeing this, Qin Tianhu saw through Qin Yu's intentions. Yes, I have something to take care of, so I have to leave dynasty for a while. Qin Yu nodded. Junior brother Qin Yu, can we leave now? Inside the Qin family's main hall, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi stood up when they saw Qin Yu walking over. The Yun family fort was quite far away from the Zhen Wu dynasty. Even with the flying speed of a martial king, it would still take more than half a month. This round trip took more than a month. If there were any delays along the way, it would take even longer. Therefore, in terms of time, they had to leave. After all, it was less than 3 months before the 100 Countries tournament. Before I leave, I have something to take care of. Qin Yu shook his head slightly. Shui clan? Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi thought of this at the same time. That's right. Qin Yu didn't hide it either. Now that Wu Xingqian was dead, his only enemy in Zhen Wu dynasty was the Shui clan. The Shui clan had tried to kill him several times, so the grudge between him and the Shui clan was irreconcilable. Wu Chunyang probably knew this, so he never mentioned the Shui clan. Young patriarch, someone has delivered a letter to you. At this moment, a Qin clan guard came in and respectfully handed a letter to Qin Yu. Ever since the royal family announced that Qin Yu would redeem himself and participate in the 100 Countries tournament, the Qin clan's status had risen. Even without the royal family's promotion, the Qin clan's status in Zhen Wu dynasty had also risen. Everyone knew that with Qin Yu's strength, it was almost guaranteed that he would be able to enter the sacred land to cultivate. After all, he was able to kill 2 martial venerables at the age of 16. Even in the entire Qinzhou, there was no one else who could do it. A letter? Qin Yu was slightly surprised. He opened it and frowned. You're courting death. What happened? Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi looked over. The Shui clan captured Senior Qin Yue? After reading the contents of the letter, Yun Shi couldn't help but look at Qin Yu. Ancient Demon Mountain Range? That's a place filled with natural dangers, so this must be a trap. Yun Guxuan said, the Shui clan dared to let you go after knowing your combat strength, so they must be confident that they can deal with you. That's right, I think it's better to let the royal family do it. Yun Shi added, the commandery prince of Bai Wu just died guarding the border. Now that the Shui clan has attacked Senior Qingyue, the royal family won't stand by and do nothing. There's no need for that. Qin Yu shook his head. He didn't care about a force that didn't even have a martial arts grandmaster. He could take advantage of this opportunity to completely eliminate the Shui clan to prevent any future troubles. Since the Shui clan took the initiative to attack him, the royal family wouldn't say anything if he destroyed them. You guys go to the imperial city first. I'll meet up with you guys after I'm done with the Shui clan. As Qin Yu spoke, he flew into the sky and flew toward the Sky Demon Mountain range. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi looked at each other and flew toward the imperial city instead of chasing after him. The Shui clan only wanted one person from the Qin clan to go. If there was one more person, Bai Qingyue would die without a burial place. With Qin Yu's character, he would never allow them to go with him. The ancient Demon Mountain Range was located at the eastern border of the Zhen Wu dynasty. It was an extremely dangerous mountain range. Not only were there countless ferocious beasts, but there were also all kinds of poisonous miasma. It was extremely dangerous. Even martial kings and martial monarchs rarely dared to go deep into the ancient Demon Mountain Range. The Shui clan's condition was to go deep into the ancient Demon Mountain Range. After 5 days, the Shui clan sent a letter to invite him to come. They must have made sufficient preparations in the past 5 days. However, Qin Yu wasn't afraid at all. He went forward calmly. Whoosh! When Qin Yu flew above the ancient Demon Mountain Range, a large number of powerful arrows suddenly attacked him. Over there! With a thought, Qin Yu shattered all the arrows and swooped down. After breaking through the poisonous miasma, Qin Yu landed in the ancient Demon Mountain Range. Looking around, the solemn Shui clan's martial artists entered Qin Yu's eyes. The location prepared by the Shui clan was a valley. Looking at the terrain around the valley, it was obvious that someone had tampered with it. There were fluctuations of formations everywhere. Woo-woo! Bai Qingyue, whose acupoints were sealed and couldn't move, suddenly became excited when she saw Qin Yu coming. She kept shaking her head at Qin Yu. Noticing the worry in Bai Qingyue's eyes, Qin Yu raised his eyebrows slightly. Bai Qingyue had seen his combat strength twice, but she was still so worried. It seemed that the Shui clan had really prepared a killing move this time. Qin Yu, I didn't think that you would dare to come. Shui Wanqian and Shui Chongshan appeared and looked at Qin Yu ferociously. Beside them, there were 5 other mysterious people. The 5 of them were covered in black robes and their faces couldn't be seen clearly. However, their cultivation was quite strong. They had all reached the martial honored realm. The Shui clan had indeed spent a lot to invite 5 martial honored realm martial artists. However, aren't the 7 martial honors looking down on me a little too much? Chapter 88. I have come as promised. Now you should let her go. Qin Yu said as he looked at Shui Wanqian and the others. If you want to save her life, you have to pay a price. Shui Wanqian sneered when he heard Qin Yu's words. Price? Qin Yu narrowed his eyes as killing intent surged in his eyes. I heard that you have the 7-star ancient pagoda. If you want to save her, you have to hand it over. Shui Wanqian's eyes were filled with greed. They already knew about it from the information they had obtained from the battle in Luo Shao City. Although Qin Yu was able to match the battle power of a martial exalted after using the secret technique, however, the 7-star ancient pagoda was the real threat to a martial honorable. As long as Qin Yu was swayed and handed over the 7-star ancient pagoda, to them, that Qin Yu posed no threat at all. At that time, they could do whatever they wanted with him. Woo-woo! Bai Qingyue was even more agitated as she struggled. Sure, but you have to let her go first, Qin Yu said with an indifferent expression. It seems that you have not understood the situation. You are not qualified to bargain with us. Now, hand over the 7-star ancient pagoda. Otherwise, I will kill this girl. Shui Wanqian's eyes turned cold as he placed a blade of true essence on Bai Qingyue's throat. Blood immediately flowed out. You are the one who has not understood the situation. Without any bargaining chips, what can you do to keep me here? The killing intent in Qin Yu's eyes intensified as the 7-star ancient pagoda appeared in his hand. I will count to 3. Let her go and I will give you the 7-star ancient pagoda. If you can't do it, don't blame me for leaving. 1. 2. Qin Yu did not care about Shui Wanqian and the others, whose faces had turned ugly, and started the countdown. Okay, I agree. Shui Wanqian's eyes twitched as he agreed to Qin Yu's condition. The two immediately attacked at the same time, but they played a little trick. Qin Yu tossed the 7-star ancient pagoda into the air. Shui Wanqian's right hand moved and Bai Qinyue was supported by a burst of qi in the air. Like a sharp arrow, she crashed into a sharp rock in the valley. However, with the speed of both sides, they were able to successfully take each other's items. After Qin Yu confirmed that there were no restrictions on Bai Qinyue's body, he unsealed her acupoint. Junior brother Qin Yu, leave quickly. There's a supremacy killing formation set up in this valley. The moment the acupoint was unsealed, Bai Qinyue immediately said excitedly, Haha, it is indeed a heaven artifact. It is finally in my hands. Shui Wanqian, who was holding on to the 7-star ancient pagoda, laughed loudly. It's not that easy to take my things. After Qin Yu signaled Bai Qinyue to rest assured, a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Roar. In the next moment, a dragon roar resounded from the 7-star ancient pagoda. The moment the dragon roared, the 7-star ancient pagoda broke free from Shui Wanqian's hand and flew high into the sky. Then, the 7-star ancient pagoda turned into a giant pagoda that was 100 feet tall. 7-colored starlight poured down like a waterfall from the 7-star ancient pagoda. It was Qin Yu who had left the dragon soul in the 7-star ancient pagoda in advance so that the dragon soul could control the 7-star ancient pagoda. Now, it's time for us to settle the score. Qin Yu's figure flashed as he brought Bai Qinyue to the bottom of the 7-star ancient pagoda. After sending Bai Qinyue into the 7-star ancient pagoda, Qin Yu looked coldly at the Shui clan and the others. Damn it! Shui Wanqian, who was dazed from joy because the 7-star ancient pagoda had flown away, immediately became ferocious and terrifying. At this moment, how could he not understand that he had been completely fooled by Qin Yu? What a powerful seal! My cultivation was suppressed by 40% and my combat strength was even more. It seems that the rumors are true. It could really be a heaven artifact. No wonder the Shui clan didn't hesitate to pay the unseen pavilion a huge sum of money. Since it's confirmed that it's a heaven artifact, then the Blood Tribe's reward is dispensable. The 5 mysterious martial honorables in black robes could not help but change their expressions when they felt the pressure from the 7-star ancient pagoda. There was both fear and greed in their eyes. Their original plan to help the Shui clan had changed because of this. Set up the killing honorable array. Shui Wanqian, who had regained his senses, immediately shouted. The Shui clan martial emperors moved and stood in various positions in the valley. As their true Kong and true Qi flowed into them, dazzling array lights lit up under their feet and formed a huge array. Shui Wanqian, Shui Zhongshan, and the 5 martial honorables from the unseen pavilion stood in the middle of the valley and formed a 7-star array. As the 7 of them formed the formation, streaks of faint purple lightning emerged from the formation beneath the feet of the martial emperors and gathered around the 7 of them. More and more lightning gathered and finally formed a terrifying thunder array. So it's the 7-star thunder array. Without attracting the real lightning of heaven and earth, the 7-star thunder array's power can only deal with martial honorables. No wonder it's called the killing array. Qin Yu took a glance at the enormous formation array that covered the entire valley. He immediately recognized it. The 7-star thunder array was a thunder array that could gather the lightning of heaven and earth. The stronger the lightning gathered, the more terrifying its power. But now, the 7-star thunder array that the Shui clan had set up was like a tiger that looked like a cat. It did not display the true power of the 7-star thunder array at all. Thunder boom! However, with the formation of the 7-star thunder array, the 7-star ancient pagoda's ceiling pressure was greatly reduced. This made Shui Wanqian and the others look even more ferocious. After a loud shout, many 10 feet large lightning pillars were shot explosively toward Qin Yu from their 7 stars formation array. Break! Qin Yu's lips curled into a contemptuous smile. The azure dragon battle sky ring wrapped around the Warden Divine's spear and stabbed out. Ripples appeared in the void like the surface of water. The terrifying pillar of lightning was directly broken by the spear. Qin Yu was like a god of death descending to the world. He quickly dove down and stabbed out with his spear again. However, within this spear, there was a terrifying killing intent that spread out like a tide. Attack with all your might! Thunder destruction! Shui Wanqian and Shui Zhongshan looked extremely serious. They realized that they had completely underestimated Qin Yu's combat strength. They took out their Earth-grade spiritual weapons and activated the 7-star thunder array with all their might. The 5 martial sovereigns in the unseen pavilion also sensed the danger and shouted. Majestic True Yuan like a river rushed into the 7-star array. It caused the original 7 formation arrays to converge into an enormous lightning beast. Baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, it ferociously pounced toward the incoming Qin Yu. A mere firefly dares to compete with the brilliance of the sun and moon. Heaven-punishing killing intent. Qin Yu descended from the sky and was unstoppable. The Warden Divine's spear exploded with a shocking killing intent. After the spear, the lightning beast was directly torn apart and turned into thousands of lightning bolts that wreaked havoc in the void like thousands of stars twinkling. How is this possible? Shui Wanqian and the others were shocked and in disbelief. With the power of the honorable slaying array, even if it was only led by a martial sovereign, it could easily kill a martial sovereign of the same rank. But now, with the 7 martial sovereigns working together, Qin Yu had broken through the lightning-killing move? Didn't they say that Qin Yu only knew the secret dragon transformation technique? Then, what was that frightening killing intent that caused their hair to stand on end? Chapter 89. Die. Without giving Shui Wanqian and the others any time to think, Qin Yu had already charged towards them. The 10 streaks of heaven-punishing killing intent on the warping divine spear were like 10 blazing suns. Kaboom! There was a loud explosion. The 7-star lightning gathering array that the Shui clan had spent a lot of effort to prepare was like a piece of paper. It was smashed into pieces by the killing intent. The terrifying killing intent swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. Wherever the killing intent passed, everything in the valley was destroyed. The martial royal realm cultivators of the Shui clan, who were controlling the array, were unable to resist the killing intent and were turned into blood. The 7-star lightning gathering array was also destroyed. Ah, my hands! Shui Zhongshan cried out in pain as his hands turned into blood mist, and he fell to the ground. Shui Wanqian's body shook and he spat out blood. His face was pale and his aura was weak. Buzz! Buzz! The 5 martial honored realm cultivators of the unseen pavilion quickly took out a spiritual pattern jade stone. A rune light shield was emitted from the spiritual pattern jade stone, and it blocked the heaven-punishing killing intent. However, their auras were messed up and it was obvious that they were severely injured. Die! At this moment, Qin Yu was as fast as a ghost as he charged out again. Shui Wanqian and Shui Zhongshan were instantly killed by the 2 spears. The top martial honored realm cultivators of the Shui clan had been completely destroyed. This is definitely not the power of a martial honored realm cultivator. That killing intent, could it be the power of heaven and earth? The power of heaven and earth? Isn't that something that can only be comprehended by a martial ancestor? Does this mean that he has a treasure that is as powerful as a martial ancestor? Run. Send the news back, and ask the head pavilion to send someone here. The 5 martial honored realm cultivators of the unseen pavilion took the opportunity to escape while Qin Yu was killing Shui Wanqian and Shui Zhongshan. Bang! However, just as they were about to leave the 7-star ancient pagoda, a beam of 7-colored light hit them and sent them flying back. Do you really think that the power of a heaven artifact is so weak? Qin Yu turned his head and looked coldly at the 5 martial honored realm cultivators. Luckily, I brought the origin shield talisman. However, I have to think of a way to break through the 7-colored light shield. The 5 dark nether pavilion martial practitioners felt their hair stand on end when they were stared at by Qin Yu's indifferent gaze. It was as if they were being stared at by a ferocious beast. A mere half-grade defensive spiritual artifact you can't stop me. Qin Yu rushes over like a bolt of lightning. In his right eye, a dark light is quietly flickering. His eye. The talisman barrier that the 5 dark nether pavilion members had conjured immediately turned into countless energy structures after being scanned by the ghost eyes of annihilation. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes shined. With a movement of his right hand, the hell-suppressing divine spear violently pierced into a certain fulcrum of the rune protective barrier. Crack! The entire rune barrier suddenly exploded. We are from the unseen pavilion. How dare you kill us? With the shield shattered, the 5 martial honored realm cultivators of the unseen pavilion immediately attacked with all their might in an attempt to stop Qin Yu. Since you are involved, how can I let you go? Unfortunately, they were unable to stop Qin Yu when they had the 7-star Thunder Convergence array. Now it was even more impossible. Qin Yu's figure flickered as his heaven-punishing killing intent surged. A terrifying destructive killing intent wreaked havoc between heaven and earth. Even though the 5 martial honored realm cultivators had used all their means, they still lost their lives one after another. They were completely unable to stop Qin Yu. Looking at all the dead martial honored realm cultivators, Qin Yu withdrew his heaven-punishing killing intent. The 7-star ancient pagoda fell and the dragon's soul flew out with by Qin Yu. It seems that even with this 10,000 poison inky flood dragon, I won't have the chance to fight. The dragon's soul entered the ancient dragon seal and said in a bored manner, "Dragon soul, when did you become so warlike?" Carrying the unconscious by Qin Yu flew into the sky. He was a little surprised. Although the dragon soul had a murderous nature, it wasn't warlike. In his previous life, the dragon soul was only interested in refining dragon blood. It rarely interfered in Qin Yu's battles unless Qin Yu couldn't handle it. When I almost died in the hands of Xing Luo, I regretted that I didn't have enough battle strength. The dragon soul's eyes flickered with killing intent. Therefore, in this life, it wanted to be like Qin Yu in his previous life and obtain a super strong battle strength. When we go to the 100 countries battlefield and find the 9 Abyss Hell Dragon, you will have a strong enough body. Qin Yu smiled. It seemed that he wasn't the only one with enough regrets in his previous life. Speaking of this matter, do you really believe that there is a 9 Abyss Hell Dragon on this continent? The dragon soul was a little uncertain when it came to the 9 Abyss Hell Dragon. One must know that the 9 Abyss Hell Dragon was a real dragon. And in the Dragon Clan, the 9 Abyss Hell Dragon was definitely a powerful existence. It was not something that the 1,000 poison inky flood dragon could compare to. The real Dragon Clan, even if it was a young dragon, had the battle strength of Wu Sheng. An adult dragon's battle strength reached the martial ancestor, martial emperor, or even emperor realm. The heavenly dragon continent was a small continent, and it didn't seem like there was a dragon clan. Anyway, we already know the location on the map. Let's go and take a look. To be honest, Qin Yu also had similar doubts. However, there was nothing absolute in the world. They still didn't know much about this continent. Therefore, it didn't mean that there was no dragon clan on this continent. It wasn't easy to get the clue of dragon blood, so naturally there was no reason to let it go. 2 hours later, Qin Yu brought Bai Qingyue back to the royal family. At this time, the true martial royal family had already learned that Bai Qingyue was captured by the Shui clan. The military was furious and captured all the Shui clan. The retired emperor Wu Chunyang was ready to go to the ancient Demon Mountain range. It wasn't until Qin Yu brought Bai Qingyue back safely that the retired emperor stopped. The news of Shui Wanqian and the others being killed also spread. As for the punishment of the Shui clan, Wu Chunyang personally ordered the execution of 3 generations of the Shui clan. One of the top clans in the true martial dynasty was completely destroyed. No one in the true martial dynasty dared to object to the punishment of the Shui clan. Firstly, it involved the retired emperor and Qin Yu. Secondly, the Shui clan's actions had completely angered the public. After all, the Bai Wu commandery prince had just died at the border. They were too arrogant to attack the people of the Bai Wu commandery prince's mansion. After the Shui clan was destroyed, Qin Yu's grudge in the true martial dynasty was completely resolved. The next day, Qin Yu, Yun Guxuan, and Yun Shi left the true martial dynasty. The Yun family fort was located in the Luo Yun Valley in the southwest region of Qingzhou. The Yun family fort's forces were centered in the Luo Yun Valley and covered the surrounding 72 counties. Although the Yun family fort didn't establish its own dynasty, the forces in the 72 counties were all subordinate forces of the Yun family fort. It was evident how powerful the 13 houses of Qingzhou were. Speaking of which, the Yun family fort's forces aren't any weaker than the royal family. Why do you still want to enter the Royal Sacred Institute of the true martial dynasty? Halfway through their journey, while chatting with Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi, Qin Yu asked curiously. Because the 5 great sacred grounds stipulated that only the heavenly talents of the various countries can participate in the 100 countries tournament, Yun Shi said. It was also because of this that the siblings entered the Royal Sacred Institute. In other words, they used the true martial dynasty to participate in the 100 countries tournament and enter the sacred grounds to cultivate. Chapter 90. However, it's not absolute. If one's talent is outstanding, the prefecture lord will recommend him to the sacred ground. Yun Guxuan added, because the prefecture lords are all from the sacred ground. With Qin Yu's talent, if the prefecture lord knew about it, he would not need to participate in the 100 countries tournament and could directly enter the sacred ground to cultivate. Junior Qin Yu, if you want to meet the prefecture lord, the Yun family fort can help. Yun Guxuan immediately said to Qin Yu. No need. Qin Yu shook his head. Going to the 100 countries battlefield was his top priority. Only by obtaining the real Dragon Clan would he have the strength and qualification to go to the Water Fairy sacred ground to save his mother. Qin Yu was very clear. Although he could use the killing intent of the heavens to kill a martial honorable, he could also use the entire heaven punishment array to deal with a martial grandmaster. However, if it was a group of martial grandmasters or wuxing, he would not be able to deal with them with the heaven punishment array. After all, he was only a martial king now and his cultivation was too weak. Cultivation was the foundation of everything. In his previous life, he was known as the Dragon God Emperor because of the Dragon Clan's superpower and his cultivation. The 3 major killing arrays in the heaven punishment ancient diagram were only supplementary method. Therefore, the most important thing now was to improve his cultivation. 10 days later, Qin Yu and the other 2 entered the territory of the Yun family fort. Sky Fog City, one of the main cities of the prefecture, had a teleportation array that led directly to the Yun family fort. Let's rest in this city for the night. We can teleport directly to the Yun family fort tomorrow. After entering the city, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi brought Qin Yu to a luxurious palace. After showing their identity as members of the Yun family fort, Yun Guxuan and the other two stayed in the most central hall of the palace. Yun Shi, you are indeed back? Just as the three of them were heading to the hall, a group of people walked towards them. The leader of the group was a 17 or 18-year-old youth with an aquiline nose. Zhu Gang. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's faces darkened when they saw the youth with an aquiline nose. This hook-nosed youth was a direct disciple of the Zhu clan fort, one of the 13 forts of the Qing province. The Zhu family fort and the Yun family fort were close to each other. Therefore, they were considered to have a good relationship among the 13 houses. However, ever since something happened to the Yun family fort, the Zhu family fort gradually coveted the Yun family fort. Zhu Gang, what are you doing in my Yun family fort? Yun Guxuan stared at the hook-nosed youth with an unfriendly gaze. Of course I'm here for a marriage alliance. Zhu Gang chuckled as his fiery gaze fell on the slender figure of Yun Shi. Give up. I will not marry you. Yun Shi gnashed his teeth and shouted angrily. Zhu Gang had been pestering her ever since he met her 2 years ago. He even went to the Yun family fort to propose marriage. That was why Yun Shi had followed his elder brother to the true martial dynasty to cultivate. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not. Anyway, the elders of the Yun family fort have already agreed. Zhu Gang looked at Yun Shi, who was a feast for the eyes. He licked his lips and clicked his tongue. Impossible. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's faces changed. That's hard to say. You should be clear about the situation of the Yun family fort. If the Zhu family fort takes out a top-notch detoxification elixir, do you think the Yun family fort will agree? Zhu Gang laughed even harder as he walked toward Yun Shi with a covetous look. Zhu Gang, if you dare to take another step forward, don't blame me for being rude. Yun Guxuan's eyes turned cold as he took a step forward. A powerful aura swept out like a hurricane. His cultivation had reached the half-step to martial royal realm. Half-step to martial royal realm? Yun Guxuan, I used to think that you were a genius. I didn't expect your cultivation to progress so slowly after 2 years. No wonder you are not qualified to cultivate in a top-notch dynasty and can only go to a remote place like the true martial dynasty. Zhu Gang laughed disdainfully as an aura that was several times more powerful than Yun Guxuan's erupted from his body. Martial royal realm. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's faces changed again. They didn't expect Zhu Gang, who was far weaker than them, to have reached the martial royal realm. Even in the 13 houses of Qingzhou, he could be considered a rare genius to have reached the martial royal realm at such a young age. The marriage between the two families has been established. She is now my woman. If you want to stop me, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Zhu Gang laughed sinisterly as his right hand turned into a claw and grabbed toward Yun Shi. Instantly, an illusory claw shadow flickered in the void. Every claw shadow was like a ghost, making it impossible to predict where it would attack from. It emitted a dangerous aura. Thousand Cloud Palm. Yun Guxuan's eyes turned cold as he condensed a vast amount of true origin in his body into his hands. Then, he struck out with both hands. Thousands of sharp palms overlapped with each other and formed a giant palm that carried a ferocious aura as it struck out. Bang! The ghostly claw shadow and the spiritual energy palm collided, causing a violent true origin fluctuation to wreak havoc. The flowers and decorations in the surroundings were directly shattered. Deng deng deng! After a series of collisions, Yun Guxuan groaned and his face turned pale as he retreated continuously. At some point, a clear shadow of a claw had appeared in front of his chest. Ha! After retreating more than 10 steps, Yun Guxuan shouted loudly and stopped his body. He quickly neutralized the claw shadow in his body. When he was attacked, his reaction was a little slow, causing the claw shadow to enter his body. Not bad. Take another move of mine, ghostly shadow strike. Seeing this, Zhu Gang sneered and pounced forward again. This time, His hands formed into claws and the blade-like claw shadows intertwined in the air as he pounced toward Yun Guxuan. Stop! Yun Xia's expression changed and she immediately rushed over. With her brother's current situation, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand this move. At the very least, he would be severely injured. Whoosh! At this moment, a black shadow flashed and a figure appeared in front of Yun Guxuan. Break! A calm and relaxed voice sounded. Then, a fist with destructive power suddenly blasted out. The ghostly claw shadows that attacked were all shattered. Not a single one was left behind. It was Qin Yu who had made his move. This time, Qin Yu was invited to the Yun family fort to neutralize the poison. Logically speaking, he couldn't let Yun Guxuan be severely injured. Who are you? After his attack was neutralized, Zhu Gang's expression immediately turned gloomy. He looked at Qin Yu from head to toe. Looking at Qin Yu's appearance, he shouldn't be a disciple of the Yun family fort. How dare he spoil his plans? He must be tired of living. Zhu Gang, this is an important guest of the Yun family fort. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave immediately. Seeing that Qin Yu had made his move, Yun Shi immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Yu could even kill a martial honorable. Zhu Gang was naturally no match for Qin Yu. However, thinking of the Zhu family fort behind Zhu Gang, Yun Shi didn't want Qin Yu to provoke such a powerful enemy. An important guest? Him? A mere LV5 martial king? Zhu Gang didn't hide the disdain on his face. He didn't even take Yun Guxuan, who was a half-step martial emperor, seriously, let alone Qin Yu. However, when he saw that Yun Shi's gaze towards Qin Yu was filled with admiration and a strange look that couldn't be concealed, his face twitched. Zhu Gang's face twitched, and killing intent immediately appeared in his eyes. Yun Shi's gaze had already shown that her relationship with Qin Yu was not ordinary. The woman he had taken a fancy to was having an ambiguous relationship with someone else? Naturally, Zhu Gang couldn't tolerate this. Chapter 91. Yun Shi, I thought you were pure. I didn't expect you to be such a slut. An important guest? I'll take a look at your lover. Zhu Gang's face immediately turned gloomy and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Zhu Gang, how dare you? Yun Shi was so angry that her face turned red and her body started to tremble. Since you're so agitated, it seems like I'm right. Today, I'll strip you naked and play with you in front of this brat. Then, I'll give you to my follower and let you know the fate of a slut. Zhu Gang snorted coldly and the obscene look in his eyes was completely exposed. Before he finished speaking, Zhu Gang's body moved and a strong true divine origin condensed in his right hand. It turned into a solid claw shadow and grabbed at Yun Shi. The power of the sharp claw shadow made Yun Shi's face turn pale, and she instinctively hid behind Qin Yu. There is indeed an affair. This scene made Zhu Gang's face turn even uglier. His murderous gaze fell on Qin Yu. The dangerous claw shadow attacked Qin Yu's dantian like lightning. It seemed like he wanted to destroy Qin Yu's dantian and turn Qin Yu into a cripple. You're courting death. Qin Yu's gaze turned cold. He originally only wanted to save Yun Guxuan and did not expect to be involved in the grudge between the two. However, Zhu Gang overestimated himself and wanted to kill him. This angered Qin Yu. Destructive divine fist. The flesh and blood in his body surged at this moment and energy gathered in his right fist like 10,000 rivers flowing into the sea. The majestic true divine origin of the battle dragon also swept into his right fist. Destructive heaven and earth. Qin Yu took a step forward and his right fist carried an incomparably terrifying destructive power. As he threw out a punch, a 5-foot-wide fist radiance condensed and an undulating explosion sounded in the void. It was the sound of the air being compressed by the power. It was enough to show the power of Qin Yu's punch. Destructive heaven and earth was the third stage of the destructive divine fist. It could completely unleash the power of the destructive divine fist, a peak emperor martial skill. Not good. In the face of Qin Yu's punch, Zhu Gang, who had originally had a ferocious expression and killing intent in his eyes, felt his heart tremble for some reason. He immediately realized that he had underestimated Qin Yu. But now that the arrow had left the bowstring, it was impossible to stop. Zhu Gang could only let out a loud roar and go all out to increase the power of his attacks. Boom! The fist and the claw collided with each other at lightning speed. The destructive True Yuan exploded once again like a hurricane. This time, the corridors and pavilions in the palace collapsed, and the warriors flew out in fright. Pucci! After taking the brunt of Qin Yu's punch, Zhu Gang's body trembled violently, and he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying more than 30 meters away. He crashed heavily into one of the ruined buildings. On the other hand, Qin Yu did not even take half a step back. His body did not move at all, like an immovable mountain. 400,000 kilograms of fire and lightning body's power, the battle dragon's true yuan from 10 dragon veins, the devouring darkness attribute, and the divine fist of destruction, which was at the peak of the emperor's stage. Facing ordinary martial dominators, Qin Yu did not even need to use the hell-suppressing godly spear. Young master! The expressions of the warriors following Zhu Gang changed. They immediately rushed into the ruins and pulled Zhu Gang out. What happened? Who is this person? How dare he make a move in the Yun family fort's temporary residence? Is he tired of living? Shu, lower your voice. Look over there. Is he a disciple of the Yun family fort? And the Zhu family fort? So he is a disciple of these two forces. No wonder the experts of the temporary residence did not appear. The warriors who came out started discussing when they saw Yun Guxuan, Yun Shi, and Zhu Gang. Damn it! I'm going to kill him! Kill him! Zhu Gang, who had been injured by a mere martial king, emitted a terrifying baleful aura, like a berserk beast. Little sister, go and call the experts of the temporary residence. Yun Guxuan, who had neutralized the hidden energy in his body, looked at Zhu Gang, who had completely lost control and was filled with killing intent. He could not help but glance at Qin Yu. When he saw the coldness in Qin Yu's eyes grow stronger, Yun Guxuan's heart sank. Yun Guxuan remembered clearly the day when Qin Yu of Luo Shao City was enraged. He had first killed a martial honorable, then killed a prince. If Zhu Gang made a move again, he would not be far from death. Qin Yu would not care if he was a direct descendant of the Zhu family fort. This time, Yun Guxuan had asked Qin Yu for help to neutralize the poison. If Qin Yu and the Zhu family fort formed an irreconcilable blood feud, he would feel bad. Stop her! Zhu Gang immediately shouted when he sensed Yun Guxuan's intention. A martial emperor appeared beside him. He crossed the void and appeared behind Yun Shi, stopping him from leaving. Yun Guxuan, even if you call your Yun family ancestor here today, don't even think about saving this little bastard. Zhu Gang walked over angrily. With every step he took, his ferocious aura grew stronger. Wisps of black fog were also being emitted from his body, gradually circling around him. Zhu Gang's cultivation immediately rose at a shocking speed. From the first layer of the Martial Emperor realm to the fourth layer of the Martial Emperor realm, an increase of 3 layers. The strength of the increase was shocking. Innate spiritual meridians? Yun Shi cried out in surprise. The black mist was the power of the spiritual meridians in Zhu Gang's body. Yun Guxuan was stunned. Zhu Gang had innate spiritual meridians? No wonder the elders of the Yun family fort agreed to Zhu Gang's marriage. Even in the 13 houses of Qinzhou, there were not many geniuses with innate spiritual meridians. Innate spiritual meridians were not something that could be compared to spiritual meridians and heavenly meridians. Those who had innate spiritual meridians were all favored by the heavens. Once they awakened their spiritual meridians, their cultivation speed would be greatly different from before. Yun Guxuan had found it strange that Zhu Gang had surpassed him to become a martial emperor. Now he understood. Junior Qin Yu, Zhu Gang must be a core disciple in the Zhu family fort. Thinking of this, Yun Guxuan quickly whispered to Qin Yu. With Zhu Gang's current status, if Qin Yu really killed Zhu Gang, the matter would be blown out of proportion. If he takes another step forward, he will die. Qin Yu did not bother with Yun Guxuan. His gaze was still indifferently looking at Zhu Gang. Wisps of dense killing intent were already circling around him. In the Qingzhou area, those with innate spiritual meridians could be considered as geniuses with great potential. However, in Qin Yu's previous life, not to mention innate spiritual meridians, he had killed countless geniuses with sacred bodies, divine bodies, and emperor bodies. If one did not have great strength, no matter how great his potential was, he would still be an ant with some potential. If he takes another step forward, he will die. Yun Guxuan's expression changed. Just as he was about to speak, a gloomy voice filled with anger suddenly sounded out. However, because Qin Yu did not lower his voice in the slightest, when Zhu Gang heard those words, he was enraged and his eyes became bloodshot. Ever since Zhu Gang had awakened his innate spiritual meridians, everyone treated him with respect. Now, this little bastard who came out of nowhere dared to be so arrogant? I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. Zhu Gang's expression became even more ferocious as he took a step forward. However, before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly saw a black figure appear in front of him at lightning speed. Not good. Yun Guxuan only saw a blur before he saw Qin Yu appear in front of Zhu Gang, as if he had teleported. His expression changed greatly once again. Chapter 92. Gang Stop. A martial highness among Zhu Gang's personal guards reacted and immediately let out a roar before dashing out at lightning speed. Unfortunately, the speed of that martial highness was still half a beat slower. Bang! Before Zhu Gang could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt a tremendous force slamming into his body. It was as if he had been hit by a desolate ancient beast. He was sent flying again. Moreover, this time, the sound of bones shattering could be clearly heard coming from Zhu Gang's body. How ruthless! Where did this youth come from? All the cultivators who heard the sound of bones shattering couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. As martial artists, they could tell from the sound that Zhu Gang was most likely already dead. Many people looked at Qin Yu, who had calmly retracted his leg, with fear in their eyes. After all, Zhu Gang had an innate spiritual pulse. He was a genius who could enter the 5 great sacred lands in the future. But now, he was mercilessly killed by Qin Yu. A genius had fallen just like that. Qin Yu's decisiveness and ruthlessness made them feel a chill in their hearts. Young master! The faces of the Zhu clan's guards changed and they immediately rushed over. However, when they caught Zhu Gang, a look of despair appeared in everyone's eyes. All of Zhu Gang's organs had been shattered. Even a deity couldn't do anything about it. Zhu Gang, who had an innate spiritual pulse, was killed. They would definitely die when they returned to the Zhu clan's fort. You dare to kill someone from the Zhu clan's fort? The expression of the martial highness changed greatly, as his face became hideous and terrifying. A terrifying aura that made the hearts of all the cultivators tremble suddenly exploded. It made the entire palace tremble violently. It was as if an earthquake had struck. Those martial artists who were originally watching and discussing fervently immediately turned into birds and disappeared into thin air. We're in big trouble now. Seeing this scene, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi couldn't hide the worry in their eyes. Although a martial honorable couldn't do anything to Qin Yu, Zhu Gang had killed Zhu Gang. However, after Zhu Gang's death, Qin Yu and the Zhu clan's fort had formed a blood feud and a death oath. Whoosh! Whoosh! As the martial highness of the Zhu Jiabao was about to attack Qin Yu, several figures arrived rapidly. The leader was a man in a silver robe. He was also a martial honorable. Uncle Feng, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi clearly recognized the silver-robed man. However, the worry in their eyes did not disappear. This silver-robed man was the person in charge of the Yun family fort in Sky Fog City, Yun Shanfeng. If it was an ordinary matter, Cloud Peak would naturally protect them. But now that Zhu Gang had been killed, the nature of this matter was completely different. If this matter was not handled properly, it could trigger a war between the Yun family fort and the Zhu family fort. For the current Yun family fort, this was an absolutely unbearable consequence. This is... Zhu Gang is dead? Yun Shanfeng glanced at Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi before shifting his gaze to the Zhu family fort's marshal revered. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes and saw Zhu Gang, who was no longer breathing. His expression changed slightly. He knew that the people from the Zhu family fort were in the temporary residence. He also received news that Zhu Gang and Yun Guxuan had a conflict. He originally thought that it was just a dispute between the younger generation and did not pay much attention to it. However, he did not expect Zhu Gang to be dead. "Brother Jianhan, may I know what happened here?" Yun Shanfeng suppressed the ominous feeling in his heart and cupped his fists as he asked the Zhu family fort's marshal honorable. Zhu Gang had actually died in the Yun family fort's temporary residence. This matter had become a big deal. However, he could not figure out who could kill Zhu Gang when he was accompanied by a marshal honorable. Among the people present, Yun Guxuan's cultivation was the strongest, but he was only a half-step martial emperor. He probably could not even defeat Zhu Gang, let alone when he was protected by a group of guards. "Yun Shanfeng, your Yun family fort's disciples hired assassins to kill my nephew. Now you're asking me what happened here?" The marshal honorable named Zhu Jianhan's expression became even more ferocious. His body was surrounded by a dense killing intent. "Hired assassins?" Yun Shanfeng's heart skipped a beat. He immediately looked at Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi. Could it be that Yun Shi did not want to marry Zhu Gang and hired assassins to kill him? "What's going on?" Yun Shanfeng's tone immediately darkened. His gaze also became sharper. If that was the case, even if Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were outstanding descendants, they could only abandon them. "Yun Shanfeng, stop acting. The real culprit is this little b*****. Just as Yun Guxuan was about to speak, Zhu Jianhan's bone-chilling voice rang out again. "Him?" Yun Shanfeng was stunned. He looked at Qin Yu. If Zhu Jianhan had not mentioned him, he would not have noticed Qin Yu's existence. A martial king was like an ant in his eyes. "Brother Jianhan, are you saying that this guy is the one who killed Zhu Gang?" Yun Shanfeng found it hard to believe. After all, Qin Yu was only a LV5 martial king. "Do you mean that you're going to protect him?" Zhu Jianhan's eyes twitched. His gaze was filled with hostility and a strong murderous intent. To be honest, even Yun Shanfeng, who had witnessed it himself, found it hard to believe, let alone Yun Shanfeng. No one would believe that a LV5 martial king could kill a martial dominator. However, the truth was right in front of his eyes. He had no choice but to believe it. How is that possible? "Since this guy killed Zhu Gang, Brother Jianhan can punish him as you wish." Yun Shanfeng immediately reacted. He took a step back with a smile, indicating that he would not interfere in the matter. Uncle Feng, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were shocked. They immediately stepped forward to plead for mercy. "Shut up!" However, they were interrupted by Yun Shanfeng's stern voice. "Humph, at least you know what's good for you." Zhu Jianhan harumphed coldly. However, he did not give up. "There's also this little thief. She has a marriage alliance with my nephew, but she's fooling around with this little bastard. She's a disgrace to my Zhu clan fort's reputation, so she must be buried with my nephew." If not for Yun Shi, Zhu Gang would not have died. The Zhu family fort would not have lost a genius. Of course, today's matter would not end here. The Yun family fort would have to pay a heavy price. That's what I should do. Yun Shanfeng didn't even think about it and immediately agreed. He only wanted to appease the Zhu family fort. As for Yun Shi, she was just a clan member with mediocre talent. It was natural for her to sacrifice herself for the family. Previously, Yun Shi had value in the Yun family fort. She had value in the marriage alliance with Zhu Gang. Now, not only was she worthless, but she had also caused so much trouble for the Yun family fort. Naturally, she deserved to die. Yun Shanfeng, you didn't do your best. Yun Guxuan was furious when he heard that. He even called Yun Shanfeng by his name. As for Yun Shi, her face turned pale. Her eyes were filled with despair. She knew that the higher-ups of the Yun family fort would make the same decision as Yun Shanfeng. Take them down. Yun Shanfeng's eyes turned cold. The three martial emperors grabbed at Yun Guxuan, Yun Shi, and Qin Yu. Bang! Suddenly, there was a groan. The martial emperor who grabbed at Qin Yu was sent flying. I say, the two of you, are you treating me like air? Qin Yu, who had been silent all this while, looked at Zhu Jianhan and Yun Shanfeng indifferently. They had decided to punish him with just a few words. Chapter 93. Qin Yu's attack caused Yun Fengshan to involuntarily cry out in surprise. A LV5 martial king sent a martial royal flying with one punch? He had thought that Zhu Jianhan had a grudge against Qin Yu and wanted to kill Qin Yu with Zhu Gang's death. However, it would appear now that Zhu Gang had truly been killed by Qin Yu. Who are you? A LV5 martial king killed a martial royal. This made Yun Shanfeng pay more attention to Qin Yu. If Qin Yu was an ordinary person, it would be fine to kill him. However, if he was a big shot, he could not be dealt with at will. At the very least, the Yun family fort could not be involved. This is young Master Qin Yu, the one who I sent a message to the clan saying that he can cure the blood fog goo poison. Yun Guxuan said immediately. The Yun family fort was in such a situation because of the blood fog goo poison. As long as Qin Yu could go to the Yun family fort to cure the blood fog goo poison, the Zhu family fort could still be resolved. The person you mentioned is him? Yun Shanfeng's eyes lit up, but he was obviously surprised. A young man could cure the blood fog goo poison? Zhu Jianhan's expression changed slightly, and his eyes became colder. Not only that, young Master Qin Yu is a close friend of Master Tianxiong from the Zhenwu dynasty. Yun Guxuan said again when he saw the change in Yun Shanfeng's expression. Could it be Master Tianxiong, who made an inferior heaven weapon? Following this, Yun Shanfeng's gaze became even more cautious. In the Great Eastern Territory, Master Tianxiong's reputation was at its peak. He had even become the #1 blacksmith in Qingzhou. It was rumored that he was only half a step away from becoming a blacksmith grandmaster. Among the top forces in Qingzhou, there were heaven-grade spiritual weapons. However, they were either obtained from ancient relics or were rewarded by the 5 Great Holy Land. Therefore, one could imagine how high the status of a blacksmith grandmaster was. Even the 5 Great Holy Lands might try to rope them in because of this. Since Qin Yu actually had a close relationship with Master Tianxiong, Yun Shanfeng naturally didn't dare to act rashly. However, if he protected Qin Yu, it would be difficult to deal with the Zhu clan. Right now, there was no other evidence to prove that Qin Yu could definitely cure the blood mist goo poison. After all, the Yun family fort had invited all the grandmasters of alchemy in Qingzhou to cure the blood mist goo poison. Other than being bosom buddies with Master Tianxiong, young Master Qin Yu is also acquainted with Master Guyuan. Seeing that Yun Fengfeng was deep in thought, Yun Guxian took out another bargaining chip to raise Qin Yu's value. Master Guyuan? That Master Guyuan who was famous in the Great Eastern Domain but mysteriously disappeared. A half-step equipment refining Grand Master and an alchemy master, these two were enough to make Yunfeng Peak pay more attention to Qin Yu. Yun Shanfeng, you have to think carefully. Can a mere grandmaster of alchemy be compared to the antidote given by the Holy Lands? Don't be fooled by his flowery words, and let the Yun family fort walk down the path of destruction from now on. Seeing that Yun Shanfeng was shaken, Zhu Jianhan's face became gloomier. Although he wasn't afraid of Yun Shanfeng, this was the territory of the Yun family fort after all. If Yun Shanfeng really wanted to protect Qin Yu, he wouldn't have a big chance of succeeding. Are you saying that the antidote given by the Holy Lands for your marriage alliance was given by the Holy Lands? Yuan Shanfeng's face changed. It was just like how only the 5 great Holy Lands could refine heaven weapons. Only the 5 great Holy Lands had grandmasters of alchemy. The antidote given by the Holy Lands was actually refined by a grandmaster of alchemy? Moreover, do you really think that the blood mist goo poison that many grandmasters of alchemy are helpless against can be cured by this little bastard? A cold smile appeared at the corners of Zhu Jianhan's mouth as he said contemptuously, "Young Master Qin Yu even came up with the antidote for the poison of the myriad poison inky flood dragon, which is said to have no antidote. How can he not cure the blood mist goo poison? One more thing, Uncle Feng. You may not know this, but it was thanks to Master Qin Yu that the House of Yun was able to learn of the blood mist goo poison's properties." Yun Guxuan retorted when he saw the situation. Zhu Jianhan and Yun Guxuan's words made it difficult for Yun Shanfeng to decide. Although the Zhu family fort had the antidote, there was only one pill and it couldn't cure everyone's blood mist goo poison. However, it was too risky to trust Qin Yu. If Qin Yu couldn't do anything, he wouldn't even be able to cure one person's blood mist goo poison. The House of Yun's predicament was only going to get worse. They might even start a war with the Zhu family fort because of his decision. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. You're from the Zhu family fort, right? I'll give you 3 seconds to disappear from my sight. At this moment, Qin Yu spoke again as he stared at Zhu Jianhan with disdain. What did you say? Zhu Jianhan's eyes darkened as a strong and fierce aura pressed down on Qin Yu. Yun Shanfeng's expression changed slightly. Just as he was hesitating whether he should make a move, he saw that Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi didn't look worried. When he looked at Qin Yu again, what he saw was still Qin Yu's arrogant face. It was as if Zhu Jianhan wasn't a martial venerable but an ordinary martial artist. Could it be that he can still fight against a martial venerable? Yun Shanfeng shook his head as this thought appeared in his mind. He had traveled all over the continent and seen countless geniuses. However, he had never seen a martial king who could fight against a martial venerable. 3 seconds have passed. You can go die now. Qin Yu immediately acted upon his words. When the 3 seconds were up, he immediately charged forward like a hurricane. You're courting death. Zhu Jianhan, who has been unable to restrain the killing intent in his heart for a long time, utters a long cry. Sweeping up a tremendous amount of elemental energy, he attacks Qin Yu with a punch in an extremely ferocious manner. Roar. However, along with the dragon's roar, Zhu Jianhan's expected attack was forcefully broken. The tip of the spear that was flickering with a cold azure light grew larger in Zhu Jianhan's eyes. An Earth-rank spiritual weapon? No, even if it's an Earth-rank spiritual weapon, it can't be so powerful. When Zhu Jianhan sensed the grade of the suppressing Hell Divine Spear, his expression turned serious as he immediately retreated. His gaze fell on the azure dragon battle the heavens on Qin Yu's body. Dragon Chi? What kind of secret technique is that? How can its combat strength be comparable to a martial venerable? Yun Shanfeng's gaze was fixed as his face turned blank. Not only did Qin Yu block the attack of a martial venerable, but he also forced the martial venerable to retreat. Isn't the amplification of this secret technique too terrifying? Spiritual thorn. Zhu Jianhan quickly regained his senses. As he retreated, he launched another attack. A stream of soul energy invisible to the naked eye turns into a violently rotating soul thorn and attacks Qin Yu like a lightning bolt. No matter what secret technique Qin Yu had used, he would definitely die in the face of the spiritual thorn. 9 dragons battled the heavens. Qin Yu took a step forward and his figure flickered as he dodged the spiritual thorn. His right hand shook as the azure dragon battled the heavens on the suppressing hell. Divine spear roared and turned into 9 azure dragons that attacked Zhu Jianhan. Rumble! A series of deafening explosions rang out continuously. Violent and terrifying energy swept across the area, and the entire palace was completely destroyed. Whoosh! Amidst the violent true energy and dragon chi, a figure spat out a mouthful of blood as he fled in a sorry state. It was Zhu Jianhan. You didn't listen when I told you to disappear. Now, do you think you can still run away? However, at this moment, an indifferent and cold voice sounded behind Zhu Jianhan. Chapter 94. No, I'm an elder of the Zhu family fort. You can't kill me. Hearing Qin Yu's indifferent voice, which sounded like it came from hell, Zhu Jianhan felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Puff! However, what responded to him was a cold spear tip that pierced through his head. Blood splattered everywhere. Qin Yu calmly put away his spear, took Zhu Jianhan's summer ring, and jumped lightly. Bang! Zhu Jianhan's body fell from the sky and turned into a pile of flesh and blood in the ruins of the palace. Zhu Jianhan was killed? Yun Shanfeng still found it hard to believe. A martial venerable whose strength was on par with his died in front of him just like that? The person who killed Zhu Jianhan was a young man at LV5 Martial King Realm? Where did this young man come from? Before this, Yun Shanfeng only valued Qin Yu's background. But now, Qin Yu was on the same level as him in Yun Shanfeng's eyes. He couldn't figure out what kind of force could cultivate such a monstrous talent. With such talent and strength, he was qualified to be recommended by the prefecture lord to cultivate in the Holy Land. In comparison, Zhu Gang, who had innate spiritual meridians, was as dim as the light of a firefly in front of Qin Yu. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were not surprised. After all, 2 martial venerables were defeated by Qin Yu when they joined forces. The Zhen Wu royal family was one of the 1,000-year-old clans, and it was also destroyed by Qin Yu. To Qin Yu, killing a revered martial artist was nothing out of the ordinary, but it was not something rare either. However, in this way, the blood feud between Qin Yu and the Yun family fort would be even greater. As one of the 13 forts in Qingzhou, they knew the strength of the Yun family fort. Naturally, they could guess the strength of the Zhu family fort, which was stronger than the Yun family fort. The enemy that Qin Yu was going to face this time was no longer as simple as a member of the imperial family. I have something to ask you. On Qin Yu's body, the azure dragon battling the heavens did not dissipate. He walked towards Yun Shanfeng, Yun Guxuan, and Yun Shi. Sensing the terrifying aura coming from Qin Yu, Yun Shanfeng's face changed and he immediately went on guard. Even Zhu Jianhan was easily killed by Qin Yu. Naturally, he was not a match for Qin Yu. What is it? Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi, on the other hand, were not as nervous. I want to know, does your family have any news about the dragon's blood? Qin Yu had originally thought that Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were core members of the Yun family fort. However, judging from Yunfeng's decision to casually deal with Yun Shi, it didn't seem to be the case. In that case, Qin Yu had some doubts about what Yun Guxuan had said about his family having dragon blood. I can guarantee that it was my father who personally sent the news. Hearing the seriousness in Qin Yu's tone, Yun Guxuan also became serious. If Qin Yu thought that the Yun family fort had the intention of deceiving him, it would be a big problem. Now, the Zhu family fort had probably been completely offended. They could only pin their hopes of curing the blood mist goo poison on Qin Yu. Only when the Yun family fort recovered its battle strength would there be a chance to resolve the Zhu family fort incident. The higher-ups of the Yun family fort didn't play any tricks in the dark, right? Qin Yu looked at Yun Shanfeng. It wasn't that he didn't believe Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi. Instead, he was worried that the higher-ups of the Yun family fort would deceive him. Qin Yu didn't care much about offending the Zhu family fort. However, if there was no news about the dragon's blood and they were fooled, Qin Yu would be unhappy. Young master, you can rest assured that the Yun family fort will never do anything that goes back on our word. Yun Shanfeng's calm and indifferent gaze made him shiver, as if he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. That's good. If I find out that you lied to me, Qin Yu took a deep look at Yun Shanfeng. Then, he withdrew the azure dragon battle and flew away in a flash. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi immediately followed after him. Phew! Only after Qin Yu left did Yun Shanfeng heave a sigh of relief. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Qin Yu's gaze just now made him feel even more pressured. It was as if he was facing a grandmaster expert. Quick, send a message back to the family. After Yun Shanfeng regained his senses, the first thing he did was to send a message back to the Yun family fort. Zhu Gang and Zhu Jianhan had both died in front of everyone's eyes. This matter couldn't be hidden no matter what. The Zhu family fort's revenge would come at any time. Therefore, he had to inform the Yun family fort to make preparations. Qin Yu, Yun Guxuan, and Yun Shi stayed in a restaurant in the city. Junior Qin Yu, I'm sorry to have caused you so much trouble. Halfway through the journey, Yun Shi said to Qin Yu with a bit of guilt and joy. She felt guilty because she had caused a blood feud between Qin Yu and the Zhu family fort. She was happy because she didn't have to marry Zhu Gang. To her, she would rather die than marry Zhu Gang. How powerful is the Zhu family fort? Although Qin Yu didn't care about offending the Zhu family fort, he wasn't a brainless and arrogant person. The Zhu family fort's revenge would definitely come. Therefore, he had to understand the Zhu family fort's power. The Zhu family fort is close to the Yun family fort. However, they cover more than 90 counties. They are much more powerful than the Yun family fort. Excluding martial kings and martial monarchs, they have 274 martial honorables on the surface. There are at least 100 to 200 martial honorables hidden in the dark. Yun Guxuan said. What about martial grandmasters? Qin Yu didn't care about martial honorables. What he cared about was the martial grandmasters. There are a total of 4 martial grandmasters. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's faces turned serious when they mentioned the martial grandmasters. In the 13 houses of Qinzhou, martial honorables at the county king level were considered the top experts. However, those at the martial grandmaster level had the absolute right to speak. The Zhu family fort was more powerful than the Yun family fort because they had one more martial grandmaster. Therefore, they were worried that the Zhu family fort would take revenge on Qin Yu. Of course, if Qin Yu couldn't neutralize the blood mist goo poison, they would be in the most dangerous situation. For martial grandmasters, Qin Yu's eyes flashed slightly. They were indeed a force outside the imperial court. Such strength was enough to wipe out the Zhen Wu royal family. However, Qin Yu didn't regret killing Zhu Gang, Zhu Jianhan, and the others. Compromising for the general interest and resigning himself to adversity was not his path of martial arts. He had to be courageous and break through all obstacles to reach the peak of martial art. If he didn't have the heart of a strong expert, his achievements would be limited no matter how talented he was. The current Qin Yu was no longer the same as when he had just awakened and did not possess the slightest bit of strength. The next day, Qin Yu was teleported to the Yun family fort under the lead of Yun Shanfeng, Yun Guxuan, and Yun Shi. The Falling Cloud Valley was a natural mountain valley with a dangerous terrain. The Yun family fort was located there. There were many pavilions and palaces on the mountain. Buzz buzz buzz. In one of the core palaces of the Yun family fort. As the teleportation formation was activated, 4 figures appeared in the palace. A sneak attack? Qin Yu, who had just teleported out, felt a gust of wind coming towards them before he even opened his eyes. Judging by the sound of the gust of wind, It was definitely a martial honorable who had reached the peak of martial honorable. Chapter 95. Swoosh. With a flash of his figure, Qin Yu disappeared from the conveying array as fast as teleportation. When Qin Yu stabilized himself, he could see the situation in the palace clearly. At this moment, there were 100 martial honorables gathered in the palace. The purple-robed man who was the leader was even more powerful. He had already entered the martial ancestor realm. A frightening cold light flashed past Qin Yu's eyes. The formation in front of him showed that the Yun family fort was premeditated. However, although Qin Yu had escaped, Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were tied up tightly. Second Fort Master, what are you doing? Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi, who were trapped, looked at the purple-robed man and asked in disbelief. You still have the cheek to ask after causing so much trouble for the family? The purple-robed man was the second fort master of the Yun family fort, Yun Hongbin. He was an 8th-stage martial ancestor realm expert. I have already written a letter to my father regarding the cause and effect of this matter. Where is my father? Yun Guxuan seemed to have thought of something after struggling for a while. His gaze changed and he shouted hurriedly. Yun Shi's expression changed. Her father would never agree to the family attacking them. Since he had not appeared, there was only one possibility. As an elder, your father has openly disobeyed the orders of the Elders Guild. He has already been thrown into the dungeon. Yun Hongbin said indifferently. As he spoke, his gaze was fixed on Qin Yu. To be honest, Qin Yu's reaction was so fast that it shocked him. Regardless of the length of the transportation array, it would cross space. Therefore, even a martial honorable who had awakened his soul power would subconsciously faint during the transportation array. However, Qin Yu had detected their attack the moment he was transported out. Even he could not help but praise his reaction speed. No wonder he could kill the martial honorable Zhu Jianhan. Is this the Zhu family fort's intention? Yun Guxuan reacted quickly. He glared angrily. Just because of an antidote, you are giving up the hope of curing the blood fog goo poison? You are digging your own grave by doing this. You are sending your family to its grave. No one knows if the Zhu family fort's antidote can cure the blood fog goo poison. What if? Bang! Yun Guxuan's roar came to an abrupt stop. Yun Hongbin casually moved his finger, and Yun Guxuan's entire body shook violently. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. Brother! Yun Shi was filled with grief and indignation. She immediately rushed over and sobbed. It seems that you've been out there for too long, that you've completely forgotten the rules of our Yun family fort. Yun Hongbin's eyes were cold. How dare a junior act so presumptuously in front of him? If it weren't for the Zhu family fort's condition that Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi had to be buried alive. That strike just now, Yun Guxuan could forget about surviving. A cold light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. It seemed that Yun Guxuan and his wife had not colluded with the Yun family fort to deliberately harm him. Second Castle Lord, didn't you say to let him try and see if he can resolve the blood mist goo poison before making a decision? Why did he suddenly? Seeing Qin Yu's cold and indifferent gaze sweep over him, Yun Shanfeng, who had yet to understand what was going on, suddenly came to his senses. Why? Are you also going to question my decision? Yun Hongbin looked indifferently at Yun Shanfeng. No, that's definitely not what I meant. I just feel that since he can resolve the 10,000 poison ink dragon's poison, he might really have a way to resolve the blood mist goo poison. By then, our Yun family fort's martial arts grandmasters will be able to recover to their peak condition. In the future, we won't have to be restrained by the Zhu family fort and other forces. Yun Tianfeng's body stiffened as he hurriedly said. There were a total of 3 martial arts grandmasters in the Yun family fort. It was also because of these 3 martial arts grandmasters that the Yun family fort could become one of the 13 forts in Qingzhou and dominate 72 counties. However, The unforeseen event a year ago had caused 2 martial arts grandmasters in the Yun family fort to be poisoned by the blood mist goo poison. Since then, the Yun family fort's position in Qingzhou had become rather subtle. Everyone knew that once the Yun family fort lost 2 martial arts grandmasters, it would become a huge disaster. This huge force that had been famous in Qingzhou for many years would immediately collapse. The resources that the House of Yun had hoarded had always been a source of envy for many factions in the Green State. "Do you think that I'm as stupid as you? That I'm going to bet the future of the family on a young lad?" Yun Hongbin reprimanded sternly. "What I mean is that since we won't lose anything, there's no harm in trying," Yun Shanfeng said obsequiously. Upon hearing Yun Shanfeng's words, many of the hundreds of martial venerables in the palace looked at each other. Obviously, they also felt that Yun Shanfeng's words were not without reason. Those who are present now are the direct descendants of the Yun family fort. "I'm sure you're very curious as to why the envoys sent by the Zhu family fort last night have not left yet, right?" Yun Hongbin swept his gaze across everyone's expressions and spoke in a dignified manner. Many of the warriors in the palace looked at Yun Hongbin. They were indeed very curious as to why the Zhu family fort would send a simple envoys at this time. After all, Zhu Gang had been killed. The Zhu family fort would either not come, or they would come with a large force. Because Zhu Gang was killed, the marriage alliance between our 2 clans naturally had to be cancelled. However, the antidote that the Zhu family fort proposed to give us remains unchanged. Yun Hongbin said in a dignified manner. "However, the condition is that the 3 main culprits must be handed over to the Zhu family fort's envoys to be brought back for punishment. I know that Yun Guxuan is a very talented junior of our clan. However, for the sake of the Yun family fort, I have no choice but to do this. Because the antidote that the Zhu family fort is offering is the 5 elements spiritual pill that was personally refined by the alchemy grandmaster of the Water Fairy Holy Land." Yun Hongbin's face was full of righteousness. 5 elements spiritual pill? Rumor has it that the supreme pill that can neutralize 10,000 poisons of the 5 elements? If this is the case, the blood mist goo poison can be neutralized 100%. Indeed. This way, the crisis of the Yun family fort will be greatly alleviated. Moreover, with 2 martial ancestor realm experts, one can stay in the clan and the other can go out to search for other antidote. Hearing Yun Hongbin's words, the expressions of the martial honorables changed. As for Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi, no one cared about their lives. After all, they were the reason why the situation had turned out this way. Using their deaths in exchange for the clan to survive this crisis was a very worthwhile transaction. "Junior Qinyu, if you can escape, then quickly do so." Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's expressions were filled with grief and indignation. There was obvious despair and guilt. They knew that since the higher-ups had made this decision, there was no turning back. Qinyu glanced at Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi and shook his head slightly. He could see that Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi were indeed wholeheartedly trying to escape the predicament of the Yun family fort. However, it was a pity that the words of a lowly person were exchanged for an ending where they could not even control their own fate. In this world, strength spoke louder than words. Escape? Things have already come to this point. Don't even think about escaping. Obediently surrender. Yun Hongbin laughed coldly and raised his right hand. Over 100 martial honorables surged with a tyrannical aura as they prepared to attack. Surrender without a fight? Facing a martial ancestor and 100 martial honorables, Qin Yu's lips curled into a disdainful smile. He was not afraid at all. Accompanied by a dragon's roar, a domineering aura that seemed to look down on the world emanated from Qin Yu's body and engulfed the entire palace. "If you want to die, then go ahead and try." Chapter 96. Martial Honorable? In the palace, all the martial honorables in the Yun family fort looked at Qin Yu in shock. No matter how they looked at it, Qin Yu was only 16 or 17 years old. A 16 or 17-year-old martial honorable? This, arrogant. However, when Yun Hongbin heard Qin Yu's words, his face darkened and a fiery aura exploded. In an instant, the entire palace seemed to have become a furnace, and the power of the fire was shocking. The force of heaven and earth of a martial honorable caused the martial honorables to come back to their senses. You have just comprehended the force of heavenly fire to the first level. The disdain at the corner of Qin Yu's mouth grew. As the name suggested, the force of heaven and earth referred to the force of heaven and earth. According to the strength of the force of heaven and earth, martial artists were divided into 10 levels. Yun Hongbin's cultivation had reached level 8 martial honorable realm, but his force of heaven and earth had only reached level 1. This showed how poor his talent was. If a martial honorable realm martial artist wanted to advance to Wuxing, he had to completely comprehend the force of heaven and earth. The comprehension of the force of heaven and earth could not be achieved with the help of elixirs. In other words, Yun Hongbin would never be able to advance to Wuxing in his lifetime. Some martial artists who had a deep understanding of the force of heaven and earth could even defeat him easily, even if their cultivation was a few levels lower. After reaching the martial king realm, one would officially embark on the path of martial longevity. At this time, if one continued to increase his cultivation, it would be equivalent to destroying his own future. Lad, I don't care what kind of connections and background you have outside. However, this is the territory of the Yun family fort. You had better know your place. Yun Hongbin stared coldly at Qin Yu. What can you do to me? Qin Yu did not take a martial honorable realm who had only comprehended the force of heaven and earth to heart. He did not care about the situation of the Yun family fort at all. Since Yun Hongbin had given the order to attack him, he would not show mercy. He might as well kill Yun Hongbin. You're courting death. Qin Yu's overconfident words completely infuriated Yun Hongbin. As a martial Dao grandmaster, how could he be humiliated by a kid? Immediately, Yun Hongbin's body began to burn with surging, tide-like flames. Streaks of fire serpents danced wildly in the air like a group of demons. Their power was astonishing. Reckless fool. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light, and a spirit array disc appeared in his right hand. As the spirit inscriptions lit up, the spirit array disc was like a ferocious beast that had just awakened, and a monstrous killing intent began to stir. Stop! Just as Yun Hongbin and Qin Yu were on the verge of fighting, a dignified voice rang out. However, that dignified voice was filled with obvious weakness. Castle Lord! As his voice rang out, the martial honorables in the palace all turned their heads and made way for him. A group of people walked over. The man in the lead was about 40 to 50 years old. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his face was filled with righteousness. However, his complexion was extremely pale and weak. It was obvious that he was severely injured. This man was the castle lord of the Yun family fort, Yun Bahai. When Yun Hongbin saw Yun Bahai, his expression changed slightly before returning to normal. When Qin Yu saw this, a strange look flashed in his eyes. Gu Xian, Shi'er. Beside Yun Bahai was a middle-aged man in a green robe. His facial features were similar to Yun Gu Xian's. This green-robed man was Yun Gu Xian and Yun Shi's father, the 9th elder of the Yun family fort, Yun Tianhe. Father! When Yun Gu Xian and Yun Shi saw their father and the castle lord, they became excited. Hongbin, what are you doing? Yun Bahai frowned. After he ordered Yun Gu Xian and Yun Shi to be released, he looked at Yun Hongbin. Castle lord, I am doing this for the future of the Yun family fort. I have no choice. They killed Zhu Gang. If we don't hand them over to the Zhu family fort, not only will the Zhu family fort not give us the 5 elements spiritual pills to cure the blood mist goo poison, they will also start a war with us. Yun Hongbin said righteously. Do you know where the Zhu family fort got the 5 elements spiritual pills from? Yun Bahai asked. Are the pills fake? Yun Hongbin's expression changed. I asked Zichen to check the water fairy's sacred ground overnight. Among the rewards that the sacred ground gave to the Zhu family fort, there was no 5 elements spiritual pills. Yun Bahai said, Does this mean that the Zhu family fort has been lying to us since the beginning? Upon hearing Yun Bahai's words, not only Yun Hongbin, but all the martial honorables in the palace changed their expressions. Since the pills were fake, it was obvious what the Zhu family fort was up to. Zhu Gang was killed, but the Zhu family fort was still willing to give us the 5 elements spiritual pills. Have you never thought that there is something fishy about this? You even kidnapped a direct descendant of the Zhu family fort to apologize? Stupid. Yun Bahai said sternly. You are right, Castle Lord. This time I was reckless. Yun Hongbin's face turned green and red. He lowered his head and admitted his mistake. However, there was hatred in his eyes. Young man, you must be young Master Qin Yu, right? Yun Bahai did not see the hatred in Yun Hongbin's eyes. He cupped his fists at Qin Yu and smiled. As he spoke, he looked at Qin Yu seriously. The more he looked at him, the more shocked Yun Bahai became. Within Qin Yu's domineering aura, there was actually a power that even he could faintly sense danger. Although he had been poisoned by the blood mist goo poison, his combat strength was still at the peak of the martial grandmaster realm. If not, the Yun family fort would have been eaten by those evil wolves who were waiting for an opportunity. However, Qin Yu actually gave him a sense of danger? This involuntarily caused Yun Bahai to become even more curious about Qin Yu. His hope of curing the poison had also increased even more. Nice to meet you, Qin Yu replied calmly. Just now, the Yun family fort had been besieged. He did not have a good impression of the Yun family fort. Just now, the Yun family fort was presumptuous. I hope young master can forgive me. I will punish myself with 3 cups of wine later to apologize to young master. Yun Bahai could also see that Qin Yu was a little unhappy. He immediately spoke warmly. Forget about apologizing. I have conditions for getting rid of the poison. Qin Yu went straight to the point and said, But I want to know if the Yun family fort really has the conditions that I mentioned earlier. After the incident with Yun Hongbin, he had completely lost trust in the Yun family fort. Young master, don't worry. As long as you can get rid of the blood mist goo poison, I will immediately give you the conditions that you mentioned. Yun Bahai did not care about Qin Yu's attitude and continued to speak with a smile. No, I want it now. Qin Yu lifted his eyelids and looked straight at Yun Bahai. What do you mean? Do you think that the dignified Yun family fort would commit such a despicable act of fraud? Qin Yu's continuous questioning made Yun Hongbin very unhappy. The revered martial artists of the Yun family fort also showed anger on their faces. Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi looked at the tense atmosphere and did not know what to do for a moment. I was invited to get rid of the poison. The moment I arrived at the Yun family fort, I was surrounded by all of you. Do you think that the Yun family fort still has any credibility in my heart? Qin Yu's voice was indifferent. If not for the news of the dragon's blood, Yun Hongbin would have been a dead man by now. A mere martial grandmaster dared to set a trap for the dignified dragon god sovereign. He was simply tired of living. Chapter 97. Then how do we know that you are not trying to gain something without risking anything? Yun Hongbin's face darkened and his gaze turned cold. Maybe you don't even know how to cure the blood mist goo poison. Then find someone else. However, it won't be so easy to invite me again next time. Qin Yu's indifferent voice had a hint of a sneer. Shut up. Yun Bahai immediately scolded Yun Hongbin when he saw the situation. Then, an ancient scroll appeared in his hand. Yun Bahai felt that Qin Yu's indifferent attitude was a sign of absolute confidence. The conditions that young master proposed are recorded here. Yun Bahai generously handed the ancient scroll to Qin Yu. Another map? Qin Yu did not stand on ceremony and took the ancient scroll. He was confident that he could completely cure the blood mist goo poison, provided that the Yun family fort could provide him with the information of the dragon's blood. Blood mist demon stream. However, upon opening it, Qin Yu saw that there were 4 ancient characters on the ancient scroll. Are you sure that this place has what I want? Qin Yu asked. It definitely has, but whether you can get it or not depends on your luck. Yun Bahai said with certainty. Where is this place? Qin Yu asked. Blood Mist Demon Stream is a forbidden area in Qin Province. It is very famous in Qin Province. Yun Bahai moved his right hand and handed a map of Qin Province to Qin Yu. Blood Mist Demon Stream? Isn't that the place where the fort master and the rest were poisoned? Yun Guxuan and Yun Shi's expressions changed slightly. Then let's start the cure. Qin Yu kept the map and the ancient scroll and walked out of the palace. Start now? Yun Bahai and the rest were stunned. Qin Yu, don't you need to check their condition? Prepare all the spiritual herbs on this list and prepare a secret chamber. Qin Yu took out a prescription filled with tens of thousands of heaven and earth spirit herbs and handed it to Yun Bahai. Quick, get ready. Yun Bahai reacted and immediately handed the prescription to Wu Zun of the Yun family fort. Seeing Qin Yu's calm and composed demeanor, not only Yun Bahai, but everyone else in the Yun family fort couldn't help but feel hopeful. If he didn't have true ability, he wouldn't have been so calm. Could this kid really be able to cure the blood mist goo poison? The corners of Yun Hongbin's eyes twitched imperceptibly. After Yun Bahai and the others left with Qin Yu, Yun Hongbin summoned a trusted martial saint. After whispering something to the trusted martial saint, Yun Hongbin quickly caught up with Yun Bahai and the rest. Half an hour later, in the Skycloud Pavilion of the Yun family fort. This was the place where the first fort masters of the Yun family fort cultivated. The scenery was extremely beautiful and it gathered the heaven and earth spirit chi. The secret chamber that Yun Bahai prepared for Qin Yu was here. As one of the 13 forts of Qingzhou, the Yun family fort's foundation was naturally very strong. Although Qin Yu's prescription for heaven and earth spirit herbs was quite precious, it was quickly found. Despite that, the House of Yun managed to gather all of them within the short span of an hour. Not only that, but there were also several sets of them. Young Master Qin Yu, don't you need to examine our poisoning situation for a bit? At this moment, Yun Bahai and a bald man were sitting cross-legged in the Skycloud Pavilion with a hopeful look on their faces. In front of them was Qin Yu, who had taken out a cauldron and was refining the heaven and earth spirit herbs in an orderly manner. You have been poisoned by the blood mist goo poison of the 5 element. It has already penetrated deep into your bone marrow, flesh and blood, and even seeped into your internal organs. Even your true essence is faintly there, right? Qin Yu said lightly. However, Qin Yu's words made Yun Bahai and the bald man's expressions change. They were extremely shocked. Even in the Yun family fort, these confidential conditions were only known to the core elders. Qin Yu didn't even need to check. He just took a look and knew their condition? This level of attainment in the art of alchemy was simply shocking. The Yun family fort elders and martial saints gathered outside the Skycloud Pavilion were also whispering to each other excitedly. Just this move alone was enough for Qin Yu to leave those alchemy masters who were full of confidence in their dust. Young master is really a medical saint. Yun Bahai and the bald man also became more respectful and enthusiastic towards Qin Yu. Their situation was just as Qin Yu said. Their true essence had gradually seeped into the blood mist goo poison. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before they couldn't even use their true essence, and could only wait for death. You two get ready. One detoxifies the poison, the other guards. The others stay 20 feet away from the pavilion. During the detoxification period, No one is allowed to come close and disturb us. When all the heaven and earth spirit herbs were refined into detoxification spirit liquid and spirit pills, Qin Yu took out a row of silver needles. Yun Bahai and the bald man's situation was different from Bai Qingyue's myriad poison inky flood dragon. This time, it couldn't be simply detoxified with detoxification spirit liquid and spirit pills. Fort Lord, I'll stay here to guard you. At this time, Yun Hongbin entered the pavilion and took the initiative to ask for help. Get out. Before Yun Bahai could speak, Qin Yu spoke coldly. Young Master Qin Yu, I was indeed rash before, but now, Yun Hongbin's eyes changed slightly and immediately spoke with a smile. I told you to get out. Qin Yu looked coldly at Yun Hongbin. Hongbin, go outside and guard. Don't let anyone in. Seeing that Qin Yu was a little angry, Yun Bahai and the bald man quickly spoke. They were afraid that Qin Yu would get angry and refuse to detoxify them. Yes. Yun Hongbin took a gloomy and cold glance at Qin Yu and then left the heavenly cloud pavilion. You two, who's going first? Yun Bahai seemed to want to explain Yun Hongbin's actions, but Qin Yu was already prepared. I'll go first. Yun Bahai and the bald man looked at each other and the latter walked out. After all, they still didn't know how good Qin Yu's detoxification method was. As the strongest martial grandmaster of the Yun family, Yun Bahai naturally couldn't take the risk. During the detoxification process, my true essence will enter your body. You can't use your true essence and force of heaven and earth to resist. After Qin Yu repeatedly warned that bald man, Qin Yu said then, he looked at Yun Bahai, Fort Lord Yun, when I detoxify, I can't be disturbed in the slightest. Otherwise, both of us will suffer from the backlash. So, no matter who it is, once they have the tendency to approach the Sky Cloud Pavilion, kill them without mercy. Remember, no matter who it is, even if it's the clansmen of the Yun family fort. Hearing Qin Yu's serious words, Yun Bahai nodded heavily. Young master, don't worry about the detoxification. Although he didn't know why Qin Yu was so serious. This matter concerned the future of the Yun family fort, so Yun Bahai was naturally very concerned. Swoosh. Swoosh. After making the arrangements, Qin Yu immediately took action. In the void, streaks of silver light flashed. It was the battle dragon true essence on the silver needles, which accurately pierced the acupuncture points on the bald man's body. Yun Bahai, who had been paying attention to Qin Yu's actions, couldn't help but exclaim softly when he saw the silver needles. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the silver needles seemed to be arranged into a formation. Open your mouth. Qin Yu flicked his finger and threw the detoxification elixirs one by one into the bald man's mouth. The elixirs melted as soon as they entered his mouth, constantly purifying and expelling the blood mist goo poison in his body. Poochie! Immediately, 5-colored black blood flowed out from the acupuncture points where the silver needles were pierced. It seemed that even the silver needles were faintly dyed a faint black color, which showed how strong the poison was. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.